Hello, friends. How are you tonight? Welcome to Showboys. We're so happy to be here. We're happy you're here. Joined, as always, by my good friend Chadwick the Third, and also our other friend over here, the White Tim Pool. Um, how are you guys tonight?
I swapped out the beanie hat for the hoodie, so I'm
I
not
see
quite
that.
simple anymore.
I just still always
Is there
love
a
the
is there a
the
beanie under it though?
No, it's the headphones.
It's the headphones. That's not what I'm looking at. Maybe you got fur on it. Is there fur on it?
My hair,
hair and
No,
beard.
no.
beard, hair.
I still love the White Tim Pool because
Yeah,
I mean
yeah,
he's
it's
just
a good look.
well, one, you look very like oddly like you guys could be brothers, but two, he also looks very white. So
I was gonna say he's
the
not.
fact that you're the White Tim Pool is amazing.
Chad's over here trying to figure out like if Tim Pool isn't white, what is he?
I'm trying to figure out even who Tim Pool is for starters.
Well, Dad, you'll have to Google a picture of Tim Pool, throw it up on the screen so everyone can be enlightened. But Chad, how are you tonight, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
Yeah.
This dude's totally white though. I'm sorry. to
See,
say it.
exactly. But I don't think he actually is.
Really?
I don't know. It's weird. It's confusing. It's an awkward situation. But what's not confusing is how much Nick looks like him when he has a beanie on.
Yeah, it is valid. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. Obviously, this is season 2 of Mr. Robot on the Throwback Thursday. So that has me pumped. The theme song always gets me pumped. Whenever I hear, I mean, I love our remix, but man, just the original like theme of Mr. Robot is it slaps so hard, and I would like
Slaps.
turn it up to like max in my headphones and just run through a wall. Like whenever I hear that, it's so good. I love it. But yes, Chad, you said before we went live that you just bought The Last of Us Part 1 again.
Again, I did, unfortunately,
Again.
yes. So they remade it with The Last of Us 2 style, and I played the demo, and I was put it off for a while. I played Days Gone, and got bored with Days Gone, as I often do every time I play that game. And so I was like, I need something to get me to February 10th, that's when the Harry Potter game comes out. And yeah, it's a short game, should last me about 2 weeks. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like probably $200 I've spent on that game in my life. Because I bought it on the PS3, PS4, and now the PS5.
Oh my god!
At least this one's a remake, though, not just a remaster. So,
worth it though, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's worth it. The show's been amazing. Episode 2 is great.
Oh,
I don't want to talk too much about it because I mean, we are almost a week out, but our very own Dad hasn't seen episode 2 yet. So, yeah. Also, hot off the press, guys. If you're a member of our Discord, by the way, we just dropped
I feel like
the poll for round 1 of March Madness. So go check it out. Don't stop watching, but open up Discord and another monitor or something maybe, and you can check out the poll. I'll be putting a graphic of the bracket itself in the channel tomorrow morning, and you guys can print that off, fill it out like you would if you were doing a bracket challenge at work or at school or whatever for the college basketball tournament. Take a picture and post it in the Discord to enter in the perfect bracket challenge. If you get a perfect bracket for our March Madness streaming service original series tournament, we'll give you some sort of prize.
We got to workshop that name a little bit, I think.
Yeah, it's about as many words as there are shows in the tournament, which is 64, by the way. So.
I was waiting for you to slip and just say they win a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, you can win an OLED. No, you can win an OLED when we get to 1,000 subscribers. So tell all your friends about that. You guys got anything you want to talk about before we bust right into season 2?
Chad,
Yes.
I have been playing Sekiro.
Yes, I know
told you.
this. I know
And I
this.
figured I do want to share. Because I've told you both, but I said I would
You
save
went
it for the
silent for a
podcast.
little bit. Yeah, you were like asking questions and then you stopped. So I was like, okay, well.
Oh yeah, I definitely have taken like a break in the past week just because like life plus Mr. Robot catch up, keeping up takes up the time.
Yeah.
Plus I've been playing a little bit of Kakarot. But my epiphany I had two it's kind of twofold. First one I think very much is like what you experienced, like that first mini boss like just defeats you and then you just have to like walk away and come back and just completely relearn everything and kind of reset your knowledge there.
Yeah.
Because like at first I was very overwhelmed by all the different like mechanics and stuff, but then coming back to it, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what's important. This is how this works. Because I think I overthought the whole death thing by a lot.
Yeah.
Like losing money and XP isn't as bad as it at first seems because you get it back really quickly.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely darker or harder than Dark Souls because in Dark Souls you can go back to your death spot and pick up your stuff. In Sekiro, it's just gone. 50% of it's just gone.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. Once I mean, really, the most important thing is the deflecting. Like that will carry you through the game. You get that down, you'll be able to roll through. I'm not gonna say roll through everything, but you'll be in a better position to roll through everything.
Yeah, for sure. And
how far are you?
Past the bull, past
Oh yeah, I remember the
I'm
bull,
I'm going through your walkthrough. I think I'm almost done with your first 4-hour video on the walkthrough. So I'm about 4 hours game time, at least in like your walkthrough.
Yeah.
Man, I think I just wrapped up with that boss in the estate where it's all burning and you defeat him. There's like a little swamp pond area and he's got like two
the
big
big
swords
dude,
and
the
that
big
dude helps
sumo
you.
wrestler. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's where I'm at. I'm right after that where I'm going through that house, like the little
going through there. Yeah.
dojo.
You're going towards the end of that section. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I know where you're at.
Yeah. I do like farming. I like the farming tips because I like doing that for both practice and money.
Yeah, that's a
and
good
XP.
spot there early on in the game, but you'll get better ones later, and I point them out in the walkthrough. I'm so excited! I'm so excited that you're biting a big chunk out of the game so far. Like you made it through Harada. You're moving.
Yeah, and like I'm also one of those people that likes to like hang out and like if there's farming to do, I'll farm.
Yeah.
Like I do it in I would not recommend you do that in Kakarot if you would like the difficulty to at all remain intact.
Yeah.
They do say do all like the side missions, but I would like if you want a challenge, I would just recommend someone play Kakarot. Like don't just do the main story and don't get all the power ups and all the other mechanics that make you better. Because I'm way outpaced from the story and it kind of sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and in Sekiro, you almost need to do that stuff so you can get more. Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely helps being like a little decked out.
Yeah, it's funny because my cousin started playing it as well. So you guys are both like texting me frequently, him more frequently, but asking me questions about it. So it's hilarious. I feel like
do your walkthrough like that's
yeah. I showed it. Yeah. I turned him on to the walkthrough. He's been using the boss guides on the walkthrough.
Yeah.
And I think he's like one of the guys that wants to figure stuff out himself. Doesn't want to necessarily watch the walkthrough, but the boss guides, yeah, he's been using.
That's not me with a game that's difficult.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not trying to like waste time because like the things you do in the walkthrough, I'm like, yeah, I would never die like 100 times and just never understand anything.
Right.
But my other epiphany afterwards was just kind of like, oh, this is like Spyro, but for adults. It's really what it's like. It's a platformer. And
it is. Yeah.
Has bosses, has stuff to collect. You're on mute, Mike, but
it's a
platformer.
It's a saying Spyro for adults. That's hilarious.
It's definitely a platformer, and it's definitely a rhythm game, 100%. And it's funny because my cousin texted me like, dude, this is so much like a rhythm game. I was like, dude, I said that on Showboys like years ago that it's a rhythm game. It's so funny that you just randomly came out and said that you feel the same way. But if you look at it that way, I mean, it really is.
Yeah, the same things that you get upset about in like Crash Bandicoot or Spyro, like in boss battles, like very similar situation.
Yep.
Like you die for stupid reasons.
Right.
You know why you died, and it's just like be better, you loser.
Yep.
So thinking about it like Spyro for adults, like really kind of clicked in my brain. Like, oh, okay, I get this.
That's hilarious. Civ says, I got in school for doing March Madness brackets in high school.
I got in trouble.
Yeah.
I got
accepted to
got
college.
money. You got a scholarship.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he got in school from yeah.
That's awesome.
Couple
So
layers there.
get in school again by doing our bracket, which will be posted tomorrow. Derpy Entertainment says I'm here for Star Wars light content in the background or TV, unless that's just a picture over your TV. I think he's talking about the Star Wars light.
Oh, that is for sure.
Like
Each
literal
individual LED bulbs.
Yes.
It's funny, but now that he said that, I can't unsee that.
Yeah,
it's
the TV,
over top
right?
of the
Oh,
TV.
yeah,
I can't
yeah.
unsee the TV.
Exactly.
It's just
Same.
an out TV. That's cool.
Well, thanks.
It's actually
for,
a broken TV. Completely just
Yeah.
Love it.
Repurposed.
Love it. That's awesome. Man, let's just talk about Mr. Robot because I'm excited. Season 2.
Stave it off more. No
Happen.
Mr. Robot. That's not
Chad.
why we're here.
Biosif says, Chad, you hurt me. I've been trying to get you play Bouncer. I played your Ghost Director's Cut.
Ooh.
I don't have a way to play the bounce. Well, I guess I do now. I probably could emulate it, but
The gauntlet has been thrown.
Chad took no oath, so he is no oath breaker.
true. You still are though, in case anyone's.
No, there's. I think I.
You're on the
have.
path. You're on the path to breaking
Yes.
it, but you're not.
I
there
was
yet.
on the path of breaking it, but now I've like
trailed off of it again.
I'm not breaking it anymore.
No,
I'm
he's
actively
honoring the oath now.
pursuing the oath.
Well, the oath was that you would beat it, so let's keep that in mind. It's not that you would just play it.
Right. And just like Brienne's oath to protect Sansa, like it was a continuous thing. So like beating it is a continuous challenge. So like the oath is broken, I guess.
Yeah.
If I completely give up.
Jeff says, not an oath breaker, just a heartbreaker.
Yeah, that too.
Nick is a heartbreaker in more than one way. I got a good chuckle when you said that you started Sekiro, and I was like, oh man, I bet Chad's like just jumping for joy over there.
It's a good game.
I actually wasn't sure if he was going to tell you or if he was just going to come in one night and be like, so I beat Sekiro.
I
told
knew.
Mike I was gonna wait till next year's like gaming and our review episode for next
just be
year,
like,
and
"You
just
beat
like
it?"
on the whole year and be like, yeah, I beat it.
Yeah.
Gaming goal check.
Let's go.
Yeah. So Mr. Robot season 2, we're here. Throwback Thursday, of course. Probably my favorite season, at least that I can remember. Also, by the end of the season, I was like, holy crap, it's the same thing that happened in season 1 where I was like, oh, that stuff's happening already?
Dude, the whole warehouse scene, I was like,
yeah,
I swear this was season 3.
Right? Yeah. But then I remembered, I'm like, oh yeah, there's only 4 seasons. So technically we're halfway done now. So, but yeah, there were a few things that happened where I was like, oh, that's happening now. Right. Oh yeah, that does happen now. But yeah, I think this overall is probably my favorite season, but we'll see once we see 3 and 4 again. Because at this point now I don't remember what comes when. So 3 or 4 might overtake season 2 as my favorite, but this one, for all intents and purposes, the things that it does, one, cinematically, like I still don't think that's exactly the right word I'm looking for, but the things it does, like kind of takes a little artsy of a direction with some episodes. The cinematography continues to impress and bewilder. The story again is like just so masterful in the way it unfolds. It has one of my favorite episodes as a whole, episode 6, probably my favorite episode of the series. has one of my favorite scenes of the entire series, and that being, I believe it was the end of episode 10 at the diner. And yeah, just some really, really good story beats get inserted and brought into the open here. I think this season started some wild like fan speculation, fan theories on what the actual story being told was about that we can kind of get into.
All
But
wrong.
before we get into that, Chad, initial thoughts without getting into any specifics, because we will spoiler tag, before we start diving into actual story beats and stuff. But just what did you think of season 1? Season 2.
Yeah, so I again loved it. I loved every minute of it. I think
Every minute.
Yeah, every minute. I think the twist in this one for me was a little bit more shocking than the one in season 1.
Which twist? There's I
we'll
feel
get
like
to
there's
it.
like
Yeah,
two twists,
yeah,
major twists, and then like one sub twist.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, I don't know, man. It's just the whole season is just beautifully put together, especially once that twist comes out and you think back to the earlier episodes before the twist.
Mhm.
It's just so well put together, just like the first season was. This was the first time that my plan of when we do these throwback Thursdays, I usually do a week off and then watch everything in a week.
Mhm.
This was the first time that plan just absolutely crumbled around me. Like I watched this all in probably 3 days, maybe like 2.5 days. It was just like a combination of like really busy at work, didn't get to watch any. Boys are off of school because they got a snow day, didn't get to watch any. So I'm like, dude, like this is bad.
They can
bro.
watch
We're
this show.
Get down to a crunch, but I was able to crank it out, and yeah, dude, I loved it. I mean, had me on the edge of my seat.
How did it stack up to season 1?
Yeah, I think that I would probably put this ahead of season 1, maybe slightly, just because, like I said, the twist that I'm talking about, it was just much more shocking to me than, even though it's really right in front of your face the entire season. It shocked me a little bit more than the one in season 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like season 1 like was Sam Esmail, the creator, like teaching us his child how to ride bikes like on training wheels, and then once we got to episodes 10 of season 1, he's like, all right, we're taking the training wheels off, and then throws
Yeah.
season 2 at you, and you're like, oh my gosh. But yeah, what about you, Nick? On a second watch, did you notice anything different? Like, what'd you pick up kind of already knowing what was about to unfold?
Second watch, definitely the first half of the season takes away a lot of like the mystery, obviously because of that reveal. But it's still cool to watch because like what you're kind of looking at the whole
Yeah.
time. So like I guess the first half was just kind of like building up to that. I was glad that happened mid-season, that reveal, and it wasn't like the whole season, because I was like, oh okay, yeah, because well, that's the thing. I was thinking like, oh, this whole season, that's toward the end, but I'm like, oh no, that's only half the season.
Yeah.
And then like I told you, Mike, I think all I'll say is that like we're not riding like a 10-speed bike here in the second half of this season. And like Chad doesn't really understand that quite yet, because to me is like that second half of the seasons where they're really kind of planting like a lot of seeds for later that lead to a ton more things. Like it's snowballing like really rapidly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because so I think the big plot twist reveal happens in episode 7.
Mhm.
And then the season is 12 episodes long. So you still have 5 episodes after the like absolute mind bending twist, right? That no one sees coming. Unless you're Civ, he probably saw it coming.
He always does. He always does.
I figured it out.
But like after that, which is massive, the way that they did episode 6 and then the reveal in episode 7, it was just like brilliant, right?
Is
It was
7 where they
peak.
have the intro where he catches you up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But the next 5 episodes, like, make you totally forget about the first 7 with all the
Yeah.
stuff that's happening. It's like the first 7 feels like season 2, and then the last 5 feel like season 2.5, just with the magnitude of the things that happen in
Yeah.
those 5 episodes.
Yeah.
And that's not to like poop on the first 7 episodes because they're amazing, and that whole story and that twist is superb. But like you said, Nick, what the last 5 set up, it really like gets things going for sure. So at this point, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen season 2 of Mr. Robot and you plan to, you should pause, come back and listen after you've seen it, because what we're about to talk about will ruin the entire season for you. So listen with caution. All right, now that's done. So while you guys were talking, I was looking through our DM on Discord, Nick, because I had to find what I sent you, because I would send you like little quotes here and there throughout the episodes, and Leon literally tells you like the entire plot of the first 7 episodes in the first 5 minutes of the season. He where they're in the diner, he's talking about Seinfeld or whatever, and he's like, and there's this one where they're stuck in a garage the whole time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like so, and like there are little bits like that, because there was even something like that in season 1 that I text Nick and I can't remember, but yeah. Do we how do you want to approach this, Nick? Do we want to talk about characters that get introduced? Do we want to go story beats? Do we want to talk about the elephant in the room first? Like, I don't know. What do you suggest?
I think we can do in any order. Definitely new characters, updates on existing characters, and
Elephant.
then big reveals slash like themes. I would say can come. Those will kind of come out through them. But I mean, probably we can really just talk about the state of Elliot in the first 6 episodes of the series, because that is kind of like a sub theme, sub season within this season. Because I think like you said, how the next 5 episodes are like kind of completely their own like season. They're actually just kind of materializing all the things that are happening during those first 6 episodes that we are kind of privy to, but we get like only like a light coding of what's going on because it's so much focus on like Elliot, and then we know
Mhm.
other things are obviously happening in there because I think 3 months he was in there. But then like he gets out and it's just like a whirlwind of like catch up, and like no, the show did not slow down, even though our experience was slightly, I think, slowed down and
Yeah.
focus on Elliot's journey through his mind.
So yeah, you're right. And I think they did a good job of showing the story progressing outside of Elliot's story in that first part. Because he comes out into like just a whirlwind
Yeah.
of a mess.
Mm.
But yeah, Elliot's state of being in the first 7 episodes. So obviously he's kind of a little bent on how season 1 ended, right? Pulling off the hack of the century, maybe of history, right? The most potentially world-changing event. Wakes up in Tyrell's SUV in the parking lot, not knowing how he got there, where Tyrell is, anything like that. And he decides to try to like suppress Mr. Robot by kind of giving himself a very strict routine, right? He does the same thing every day. I forget, he goes through the list, but like he wakes up, he goes and makes his bed, and then he goes to the diner with Leon and they eat, and then they go to the park and watch some basketball, and then he comes back and he does dishes, and then he like goes to church group, and then he goes back to bed and then starts all over again, and he's got this journal, he's keeping track of everything. And like I loved the routine, and I loved like what he was trying to do in doing it, because he's using this notebook to essentially track time so he can
Yeah.
tell when Mr. Robot takes over and he's no longer the one in the driver's seat, right? And then of course that leads to this conflict between Mr. Robot and Elliot, which was played out beautifully. And
Oh
we
yeah,
could
so
talk
good.
about that. That's a whole other thing that we can get into. But um, yeah, it's, by the way, I don't know if you guys noticed this in season 1 episode, but this look familiar
Oh,
down
nice.
there?
Oh yeah.
This
Where'd you get that?
this is Elliot's notebook. I had him send a little tweet to Rami. I was like, "Hey, you still got that notebook?"
Oh, it's
Yep.
actually got all the stuff in it too.
Yeah, it's
It's
got
not
like
just a notebook. Oh,
little
that's so cool.
inserts. It's actually a book you buy on Amazon. It's
That's really cool.
helps tell a little bit of story in between seasons 1 and 2. But yeah, this is his notebook that he keeps while he's in prison, right? And it literally is just a notebook.
Yeah.
And it was saved by Hot Carla, who was burning it at the end of episode 7 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she writes here on the inside flap, saying that. But she makes like little notes in red throughout the entire thing too. But
Yeah.
there are a ton of like loose papers and postcards and like,
Yeah, there was a book that before the
Super
Division
cool.
came out, it was like an emergency survival guide for New York City, and it had that
oh,
same kind of
nice,
stuff. It had a
dude.
bunch of inserts and handwriting and like
That's so cool.
like subway cards and all kinds of cool crap in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. And there's a couple Star Wars ones that are like that as well. That are really cool.
Nice. That's sick. But yeah, let's talk about some characters here involving in the first 7 episodes here, and then we can kind of go more into detail about the conflict between Mr. Robot and Elliot and the whole prison thing as a whole. But one of my favorite characters, not my favorite, but one of them, maybe top 3. But
Joey.
Nick, is this your favorite? Would you be as bold to say he's your favorite character?
Yeah, he's my favorite character. He's
Yeah.
dope.
So we have Leon here, Elliot's friend in prison. And before you learn it's prison, you just imagine he made a new friend, which is really cool. But yeah, Leon,
Yeah, but
played
it
by
sticks out. It really sticks out like a sore thumb for me. Like that was the first. That was the first time I was like, that's just a weird dude that he would be hanging out with, and he's doing like a lot of stuff with them, like going to watch basketball and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it. I do love Leon. I think he's a great character, especially all the Seinfeld stuff that he's just rambling on about all the time.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
hilarious. So
Yeah, Leon, played by Joey Badass. Actually,
oh, that's hilarious. I thought that was a joke.
no,
on
he's
the,
a
on the
rapper.
credits.
He's a rapper.
I didn't know that. I thought it was a joke.
and a good one. I enjoyed his
Recently, he dropped an album recently, just at the end of last year.
album.
2000.
Amazing character, love him. Love the dialogue he has, especially about the 90s sitcoms here. But what he actually turns into being towards the end of the season, super interesting.
Great scene.
Yeah, dude. Just out of nowhere. So how do you want to approach the prison thing, Nick? Like, there's just so much, and I don't know where to start and like what to really dig into.
Yeah, so I mean, then obviously the net of it, like first 6 episodes, like Elliot is telling us that he's gotten away, right? He's forced himself into this routine to kind of like try to battle Mr. Robot for control.
And I forgot to mention, like, to be away from computers.
Yeah,
like he tries to isolate himself from.
It's almost like a rehab.
Having apps. Yeah, exactly.
He's like somehow is telling us he's in this rehab without a lot of explanation of like where he is, how he's there, all that stuff. How does that really disconnect him from everyone else? And there's all these like odd visits. People just come and visit him oddly, right?
The oddly shaped like dining room of his mother's house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's his mother. kind of guarding, but no one really acknowledges that. Yeah, and then there's like the phone thing, right? All these very obvious elements, and even the basketball courts and all that stuff that really kind of builds the idea. The warden, that he's actually in jail, and that's one of my favorite bits. There is when at the beginning of episode 7 when he catches you up and you see him get arrested for blackmailing and really just stealing that dog of his therapist's boyfriend. Because it was like a $1,200 dog that was into the felony range. So he was supposed to plead not guilty because the lawyer could get everything reduced. He's like, nah, yeah, guilty. So in some sense, I guess he wanted to go to jail because he knew he just wanted to get away from currently like the spiral he was in. So a big portion of that is this battle, even like a chess match with Mr. Robot, where they are tussling for control, and he's looking for ways to control and even drown out Mr. Robot, whether it's ODing on Adderall, whether I think ODing on Adderall is the big one. Which
what a sequence that was.
That's one of those great. That was one of those great situations where there's a show you watch, or like people you live with, like your significant other, watch, and you walk in during that one scene where
that
it's
one
like,
scene you're like, what the hell are you watching? Yeah.
And I
swear it's not all like this. I swear.
Yeah, she's familiar with the show from the other time I watched it, but like the weird thing about that is that's very early at the beginning of a new episode. So like I just started the episode up, and like 10 minutes into it, like that whole sequence happens. And she's like, oh my god, she's like, what is happening right now?
Oh gosh, dude, it was so
so
man,
gross.
even my third time seeing him like throw up Adderall that he tried to OD on and then realize he threw it up and start eating it out of his throw up, I was like, oh.
Even though like in your mind it's probably oatmeal.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
It's probably oatmeal, but it just the thought that it's not, it's just so gross.
Yeah.
That might be one of the most vulgar scenes I've ever seen in a show, to be honest.
I love when he's like, before he gets to that point where he's like doing the he's like, I haven't slept in 7 days. And he's like doing the dishes. He's like, these are immaculate.
That's a good bit,
watching the basketball thing, and he's like, yeah, slam dunk. But yeah, it's
so on your guys' first watch of this, did you pick up prior to the prison thing at all?
Not a
whatsoever.
Clue. No. Did you? Because I wanted to ask, as someone who seeing it for the first time, like, was there any indication that he was in prison?
So this show is so difficult for me because like you just don't know. You don't know what to believe when you're watching it, right? And like I said earlier, I thought the Leon thing was weird. I thought the basketball thing was weird. I didn't think that he was in prison. But the one thing that made me really think was the alley scene where they pin him up against the chain. I mean, I was like, that seems like a freaking prison rape scene. You know what I mean? Like that's so odd for it to be happening in a back
close
alley
to the reveal.
It is very close to the reveal.
That's like the next.
They're really starting to give it away at that point.
Yeah, but even then, like, it was weird, and it seemed so much like a scene you would see in something in a prison. I still didn't register with me, so my mind was pretty blown when they revealed it.
Yeah. I think the genius of the way this is written and portrayed is that you're watching it. So, the first time, all I can say was like, it's weird, it's off, right? You have a ton of questions, but it's Elliot, so you're so used to this kind of like, you don't understand everything. You're not really overly concerned with like, ooh, what's really happening here. You're kind of like really putting a lot of that in the back of your head because you're really just focusing on this journey, this thing that Elliot's going through. Like his visual understanding of the world really is not that important for most of the show, right?
Yeah.
So when you hit the reveal, it's like, oh yeah, duh, that all makes sense. And then it's just kind of, it's so in front of you, but not that important. That's the thing. Is like, it's not important that he's not in, or he is in a jail.
Yeah.
Right.
Because like where other shows would be like, ooh, that's the big like season reveal, like
Yeah.
ooh, we got you kind of thing, where it's like it doesn't really matter. Like it doesn't change anything that happened, him being you seeing that or not.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that should. It is cool that it comes so late in the season too, or so, I guess, early in the season, not like the last 2 episodes, right?
No.
But yeah, I really, I'm gonna need to watch the show a second time at some point because I need to go back and watch those first episodes now that I have that knowledge, you know.
Just
And
wait.
the other
Because
and,
it just gets better and better, man.
Oh God.
and
But
I
yeah,
love that
I
it
think
lived up. Sorry,
I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I just like that it did like double down on like because we told Chad last episode like the season 1 isn't really anything, like it's very low
Yeah.
Yeah.
par in terms of like reveal, or like that's not the craziest thing you're gonna see in
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah. You know, I remember watching this for the first time and thinking like, wow, his mom's house like looks really weird. Like his room is set up very weird.
Very. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, why is he talking to like Gideon and Angela and Darlene like in this really oddly shaped like dining room?
Right.
And why is he with his mom of all people? Like
Yeah,
this,
also
but
true.
but also at the same time, I'm like, well, I mean, I guess because he's like an addict, right? So maybe he wants to kick his morphine. So maybe he would do this. Two,
He's
he
not an
just
addict.
he's this obviously struggling with some mental issues. Maybe he's trying to kick that. Three, he just pulled off like an absolutely insane like criminal hack that changed the fate of the entire world.
Right.
So maybe he's just like trying to like be
Hide.
away.
Yeah.
So I guess it kind of made sense that way. But I do remember like just the way the house looked itself. I'm just like, this is really weird looking. But then I'm like, whatever. But
Yeah.
I
It's just a New
never
York. Yeah.
the
Whatever.
prison thing never popped into my mind. And
Yeah.
even though like we've all said right now, up to this point, like there were things that were off and kind of odd that struck you as like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like they hit it so well, like
They did. Yeah.
so good. But yeah, Leon, fantastic character. We just see him. He's just kind of Elliot's buddy throughout the first, 6 episodes, and then in episode 7 or whenever the reveal happens, and the scene Chad's talking about where Elliot shuts down Ray's site, which we'll talk about Ray and that whole beat in a second, but he shuts down Ray's site, the the white supremacist dude group in the prison is not happy about that because they lost a lot of Bitcoin, and they're like, Elliot, you better get my wallet back or else it's not gonna be pretty for you. And so they take him down the alley. They're about to do some not fun prison things to him, and here comes Leon ninja slicing
Oh, dude, yeah.
everyone up and
Straight
saving
ninja.
Elliot.
Yeah. Straight ninja for sure.
You just hear like the slices and the
Yep.
fighting happening, and Elliot's still kind of like pinned against the fence, and he turns around and Elliot's just standing there, or Leon's just standing there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Leon, what are you doing, dude? And then he's what takes it over the top is Leon's like, there will be a letter arriving tomorrow. I suggest you do what it says.
He's like, is that when he says, "Tell White Rose," like,
yeah,
I helped
tell White
you out.
Rose that I did you good.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, Leon is a Dark Army henchman. Holy crap. Like this whole thing has been orchestrated from the start. Like, oh, what did you think about the tie to the Dark Army and White Rose with Leon?
Yeah, it was really cool, man. I hope I don't know if Leon's gonna stick around. I think he's a great character. I hope he sticks around. Probably never gonna see him again is how I feel about it, but for obvious reasons, right? But I do have to ask, the White Rose is the scientist from Jurassic Park, correct? Do either of you know?
Is BD Wong in Jurassic Park?
I'm pretty
It's worth
sure
mentioning.
if it's not, he's got
Hold
a
on.
twin.
I mean, he's in a lot of Law and Order stuff. He's in a lot of things, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, he is. He's
Is
Dr.
he
Henry
really?
Wu in Jurassic Park.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. I
Yes,
thought I recognized that dude, and I was trying to think about it, and that's what I landed on. But
Yeah, to catch up, White Rose is, of course, the female leader of the Dark Army, but she is also the male government official from China that we saw talking with Philip Price at the end of season 1. So White
Philly
Rose
Price.
has his in her hand in a lot of different places here
a
in the
lot of
story.
different places. And is the White Rose thing just a disguise, or we don't know?
You'll
Okay.
just have to keep watching to find out.
Okay.
But yeah, so Leon, awesome, great character. Love just him as a whole in the show, and then loved him even more when the reveal of who he actually was came out.
That was probably like the first like really suspicious thing I had where I'm like something's really off here is when he shuts down the site and all of a sudden like these dudes roll up and be like, yo, you better fix that shit. It's like,
Right.
okay, we're in this neighborhood, how
How'd
how
you
do they
find
know
How
out?
would
so
you know?
quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, what's going on here? So I would say that was like for me, like the first, like that's really strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about Ray, because we're kind of
Ray's
talking
a
about that
great
story.
character. Love
Ray
Ray.
is an amazing character. Who would have thought Craig Robinson would show up in Mr. Robot?
Crush it.
Wow. And he does. He crushes it. He adds just the perfect amount of like, who was he? Daryl in The Office. Just like the perfect amount of humor in Ray's lines, but like kills the serious role here, which I don't think I've ever seen him in a serious role. But yeah, like, man, Ray's like trying to befriend Ellie because he heard he's a hacker and he's got this problem with his site. He's trying to, it's down. He's trying to get it back up, and then he's trying to merge it into a different site. He's got this dog. He talks about his wife, and then there's a scene of Ray at his house where he's eating breakfast and he's hooked up to his machine and he's talking, to his wife. And then you find out that his wife's actually dead, and that he's kind of, similar to Elliot in a way where he talks to people that don't exist. And eventually you find out that Ray is up to no good, and the site he is trying to get back up and running and merged into a new site is a very, very bad site on the dark web.
Yeah.
Selling terrible things. And of course, Elliot ends up helping him migrate the site to a new site, and that's where he finds out from the old IT guy, RT, that what the site is actually for. And then Elliot does his vigilante hacker thing and turns Ray in. And I loved the scene between Elliot and Ray when they're playing chess right before like the big reveal happens, right, where he gets turned in and everything. Like Ray didn't even really know what was on the site for a long time.
Yeah.
He was just like, just don't look, and extra way to make money, whatever. What I don't know isn't going to hurt me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that he was like perfectly okay with being turned in, because he knew what he was doing was very wrong. And just like that turn of his character where he's just like, yeah, I am a scumbag. Like maybe I shouldn't have been doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a fantastic character. And the way
He's
that
great. He's great. And like you said, I'd never seen him in a serious role. And he gave me I'm trying to think of Anthony Anderson, I think is the name. He played in The Shield. He's a comedian, and he played a serious role in The Shield and nailed it. He kind of gives me the same vibes as that character. But yeah, I mean, he should pick up more of them because I thought he was great. Like, it's so weird sometimes to see like mainly comedy people go into serious roles, but sometimes they pan out better than their comedy roles, I think. And I think this is one of those cases.
Yeah.
I like Ray's one of the early themes of like someone that thinks they can use Elliot, but and it's like, no, it's the other way around. Like Elliot either uses you or like Elliot is your savior. You're not like doing Elliot any favors. Because he did the whole thing. He's like, yeah, he's like, I thought it was me, but he's like, you, like, you're my like fix, my savior kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, and shoot, man, I totally forget. I love, to go along with what you're saying. Ray becomes very instrumental with Elliot's inner conflict between Mr. Robot and himself. That's where the literal chess match of the literal and figurative chess match between Elliot and Mr. Robot that plays out throughout the season. That's where he gets the idea. He gets the chessboard, and then Mr. Robot and Elliot play chess against each other to determine who will remain in control. Whoever wins will be in control. The other one will go away. And of course, neither of them can beat the other because they're the same person. So they end in like a million stalemates, and Elliot rattles off like the odds of, there's this many moves in chess and the odds of actually getting a stalemate are this rare, and to get them like 4 times in a row like we have is just astronomical, blah blah. I thought that was interesting, but I love exactly like what you're saying, Nick, where it seemed like in the conversations between Ray and Elliot, Ray thought he was doing Elliot the favor of helping him like bring clarity to this inner struggle, when really, while he did do that in a way,
Yeah.
Elliot did the same for Ray, which I thought was pretty cool.
Elliot is a godly being.
He's definitely something. All right.
Yeah, because well, there's also in this season has a theme, and it's the whole like leader thing, whether it's Angela or Darlene or Elliot, right? They all kind of are trying to purposely or indirectly kind of like be these leaders. Like at the beginning of the season, Darlene is trying to be this leader of this movement. Angela is trying to be this big boss lady in E Corp. Elliot is trying to completely avoid all that, but there's even the scene, I forget which it is. I think it's like toward the end, but he's like, man, what scene was that? But he was like, I'm not a leader, right? Like that's not me. And
Yeah.
like that's Elliot saying that. Whereas like there's this other part of Elliot that is very much like this revolutionary, the Mr. Robot kind of half that we see some excerpts from that we didn't get to see prior that they replay, where it's just crazy in this season when they put the Elliot character in place of like Mr. Robot, if that makes sense, where it's like Mr. Robot talking clear, but you see Elliot, it just puts in a whole different perspective. And Rami, or whatever, how you say his name, he nails like the whole Christian Slater, like Mr. Robot bit.
Oh, dude, yeah,
really
when they
good.
show the scene with Tyrell later on in the season, which we saw in season 1 from as Mr. Robot, that you see the same conversation as Elliot, and you're right, like he's got a great Christian Slater impression. Or well, like at least in his like demeanor.
Mr. Robot,
like,
Christian Slater, like
body.
yeah, it's just it's uncanny when you see him running those lines, and it's just like whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, so Leon and Ray, the two big character pieces and story beats in the prison. Of course, the prison itself, like being a huge story beat where, like we've talked about already, Elliot's trying to cleanse himself, basically. Like Nick, you described it perfectly. It's like rehab. He's going to rehab for a multitude of things. But essentially, at the end of the day, after the chess match with Mr. Robot, they come to terms like, we're the same. Like we can't be one without the other. We need to work together. So they do, because they need to work together because of things that are happening on the outside. But before we get into the outside stuff, we have to talk about episode 6, which is like my favorite episode ever, and that's like the straight up 90s USA sitcom
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
What did you think about this when you first saw it, Chad?
So unfortunately, I have the kind of reference of watching this after WandaVision, so it kind of reminded me a little bit of WandaVision. But I
Yeah.
loved it because it's like it's got that very 90s Full House vibe going on, but there's just so much fucked up shit going on in it that like she puts the cigarette out on her arm and then knocks her
keeps
out. Like
knocking her out.
There's like a body in the trunk. It's so much good stuff. Yeah, dude. As soon as I saw this, because I remembered that you said that one of your favorite episodes was in season 2. I was like, this has got to be it. This isn't it, I'm shocked. So
yeah, no, you nailed it.
Yeah.
I love the Full House intro too, where they're all like doing stupid stuff.
Angela's
and
just like crying, makeup running, crying.
Gideon's reading the newspaper about how he died, and then he like looks up and he's like,
yeah.
But yeah, I remember when I first watched it, I was like, oh, this is the best intro ever. Like, and then it just kept going.
I thought it was just gonna be the intro too. Yeah.
Like the commercials were the commercials you saw on the streaming thing. It was just like they popped on like 1 or 2 like 90s themed commercials. And that was it. And the rest of the episode just played out like you were watching on Amazon Prime. So I was just like, I talked about in season 1 how maybe I didn't lift up USA Network as much as I should have, but like what they allowed Sam and crew to do with Mr. Robot on USA, like in a primetime like 9 o'clock slot, like at the time, kind of ballsy. Like
the kids are in bed. You're all right.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's as ballsy as
even. Well, it's not even like so much the content; it's the artsy things like this sitcom episode and not having commercials through it.
Yeah,
and like letting it play out like that. You don't really see that with like basic cable channels. Like that's kind of like a big outside of the box against the grain thing to let somebody do on one of these major basic cable channels, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the big thing that made me like remember that it was, or at least I was like, it's the suicide in season 1 that's like vivid, like blood splattering, almost identical to the actual one that happened in real life. And I was like, geez, dude, like I can't believe that was on like USA. It was like so bizarre that.
Wait, what happened in real life?
It was like in the early 90s. There was a guy that killed himself on live TV. Like a congressman or something. Yeah, almost the same exact way. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that. Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, so episode 6, they do this like very outside of the box style and direction with the episode and how it aired on USA, which was really cool. And they have at least one other episode in the coming seasons that's very similar. That's like this. It aired exactly as you watch it on Prime on USA, which is props to USA for letting this team like fully execute their vision for these episodes in the show. Super cool. But yeah, like the fact that well, I don't know if you guys caught it, but like as Elliot's in the hospital bed when he wakes up, like a 90s sitcom on USA is playing on the TV in the room. So like that's like where the association of the world that Mr. Robot's putting Elliot in as he's like suffering after this gnarly beating he took. But yeah, obviously art wise, like in the artistic direction of the episode is super cool, but the meaning and the significance of why it was like that and what Mr. Robot was doing for Elliot was like so crucial to both of their characters. And like yeah, man, it just like I remember Dad telling me in the scene where after he wakes up out of the hospital bed and the Ray's henchmen like drag him down in the basement or whatever and like kind of throw him in that room, Mr. Robot comes out and they like hug and Elliot's like, thank you. Like, Dad, I don't, maybe he doesn't want me to tell, but he said, oh, that almost made me cry.
Yeah.
But it was like an emotional, like touching moment because
Yeah,
one,
very,
you know,
yeah.
Elliot doesn't like physical contact, so just the fact that he's hugging anyone. But two, like after all the strife that they've been through in the previous episodes, to see them like come together and how like Mr. Robot was really like trying to take care of Elliot was really, really, really cool. But yeah, who doesn't love an Alf cameo?
Yeah, right?
Right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, like it kept the whole like cheesy comedy sitcom like style, but like Chad said, there's a whole bunch of like really messed up stuff happening. You have like the mom just like continuously knocking out Darlene in the back of the car. They rob the convenience store that Angela's working at, which was hilarious. There is a person in the trunk of the car that we find out is Tyrell. And the whole episode, he's like, "Hey, I'm back here, let me out." And he escapes. I love it when he escapes and they like knock him over and go to pick him up, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll take him by the shoulders. You grab him by the shoes." And he's like, "The ankles, these are whatever. Like, don't touch my shoes." And then Mr. Robot just kills him with a tire iron. Just like what? He's like got blood squirted all over him. Then they're having this like conversation, but like they're having all this serious stuff, and Elliot's like breaking the fourth wall because he's super confused because his like curse words are getting bleeped out, and he's like looking at the camera, but you still have the laugh track going.
Right.
And it's
Did
just
you
like,
hear that?
Yeah,
so good, dude. Yeah,
it's great.
Yep.
But yeah, I think we took care of that whole arc. Like, where do you want to go next, Nick?
Well, we can definitely talk about new characters.
I was trying to think. Like, I think there's only 3 new like main players: Leon, Ray, and then Dom.
Yeah, so
And
we
then
can
we
talk
just
about
have
Darlene and Dom. We
Yeah, I
can
was
talk
gonna
about Darlene arc into the Dom arc because that's
Okay.
kind of all strung together.
Yeah, and it plays well into the whole prison thing too. And then the other characters were just characters that were kind of like in the background of season 1 that have risen to prominence here in season 2, which I can't wait to talk about. But yeah, so we have Darlene, and then that eventually leads into Dom. Nick, you alluded to early in the season, she's like the ringleader, the crime boss here of the 5-9 F Society crew.
Yeah.
They
While he's in jail, she kind of like tries to take up this leadership mantle to lead this larger F society where we got all these recruits and they're running weird gags and gimmicks, like dropping the nuts of the bull from Wall Street into like Congress. And they're just like doing different operations. Like they're really trying to scale this whole F society thing into something much more than it is. Meanwhile, you know, she's doing all that, trying to be a leader, and Elliot's, you know, in his rehab.
It's important to note here too, because after the hack, Elliot's like, "Oh crap! Like, what the heck did we just do? Like, I want to wash my hands of this." Darlene's the exact opposite. She's like, "All right, like, we just opened the door. Like, this was a beginning, not like the end all be all. Like, we have to continue to pressure and pursue our objective, which is to really absolutely destroy E-Corp."
Honestly, I mean, getting like an 18-month jail sentence, or whatever it was that he got like right afterwards, was probably like the best move if you really wanted to like avoid that whole situation altogether.
For sure.
Like,
for sure.
Yeah, let me just lock myself up over something like stupid and petty, like right away, and then I'm just gonna go hide out for for like 3 years. Be like, sweet.
That's why I was wondering, like, when in the judge scene, like, it looks like he's just like catatonic and just nodding senselessly to everything, but I feel like he was probably doing it on purpose, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, yeah, did it. Yep. Did it.
Because I think,
you know what I mean?
Because there's that moment where he's like, he's kind of not listening to the lawyer, and he's just like, he doesn't want to do it anymore. Like, he's just kind of done running through these hoops. He's just like, Yeah, I did it. Guilty.
Yeah.
What do you want? Like, you
Yeah.
win.
So Darlene's path starts out by commandeering a smart house,
Owned by the E Corp, like, lawyer
Madam
of sorts.
Executioner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the introduction here to the house where it's just like she comes home and like the temperature drops to like 50 degrees. She's taking a shower and it turns up to like 1,000,000 degrees and burns her. And like the TV projector screen keeps dropping down and turning on like the Mr. Robot version of like what's the guy's
MSNBC.
name? Alex the
Alex Jones.
yes.
Yep.
Yeah. The music keeps blaring up and she turns it down, it blares back up, and basically they've like hacked her smart home, which I then text
So
Nick. I'm
cool.
like, this is why I hate the digital movement and I
Yeah.
am all analog. Yeah, they hack her house, make her leave, and then they like squat here. This is their like base of operations. But yeah, she's still up to, doing F Society things, trying to make E Corp's life a pain. And eventually, long story short, the lawyer ends up coming back while they're still there. They have to like kind of take her prisoner.
I love that episode, by the way.
They're trying to figure out how to like social engineer and like blackmail this lady into like leaving them alone. And Darlene just like has a moment where she's like, nah, I'm just gonna solve this problem right now, and straight up murders her with a taser because she found out that the lady had a heart condition. So they do that, and then they're like, oh crap, we just killed someone, we should probably leave.
Falls in the pool, drowns.
Yep. Of course, we have a lot more interaction with our boy Cisco from season 1.
I really like Cisco in this season.
I love
versus like he's a complete like douche in the season 1, but this season I love the dynamic between him and Darlene.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you like to go into depth here with Darlene's story, Nick?
I mean, really, that's kind of like the gist of it. I mean, she has a lot of it's a lot of, like you said, a lot of building up and like more use of kind of like the F Society characters. Obviously, we have Romero, Rip.
Yep, he bites the dust.
He bit the dust, which freaked out Mobley and the other girl, Trenton.
Yeah.
And they kind of just basically our F Society crew goes through like a very existential struggle. either they're mass paranoid or Darlene's trying to pretend it's all cool and she has it under control. And it's really just all about the state of what is F Society even, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, we get all the bits with Dom, who is this FBI agent who is like kind of hot on the trail of F Society. And there's a really good scene where they find she finds the F Society hangout and literally says F Society on the building.
Yeah.
Walks in there and there's all this stuff. And she's just like, we're kind of idiots. We look like idiots because this was just so apparent.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening here.
Yeah, Dom, FBI agent, like cybersecurity specialist. It seems like she's like on the nose with everything that's going on. That all of her like agents are totally messing up. Like in Romero's thing, they're trying to extract the hard drive or something, and like she's like, "Oh, the port's been modified." As soon as she says that, someone plugs something in, and it just bursts into flames. She's like, "Well, that sucks." But yeah, Romero dies, and that of course sends Mobley and Trenton into the spiral of mass paranoia where Mobley really is just freaking out because he's like, we did this with the Dark Army. If they think like, we're going to lead any officials to them, like they're just gonna kill us. Like they killed Romero. Like what? Like he had all this stuff. Like obviously it was the Dark Army, so he's freaking out. Darlene's like acting like nothing's going on, and some things that Darlene ends up doing, mainly what it comes down to. We'll talk about the end of episode 10, which is my favorite scene maybe of the series. Eventually, with all this paranoia, with the lawyer lady being killed, Cisco is like sending the Dark Army footage of Darlene sleeping at his apartment, and she finds out about that. So that like sends the Dark Army paranoia even more into a spiral between everyone. Mobley gets picked up by Dom and questioned, but her superior Santiago is just kind of like, we can't really push into this because, oh, by the way, the hack that Elliot helped F Society and Darlene do while he was in prison was hacking the FBI to leak this conference call about the Patriot Act and how they're basically spying on everyone. And so Santiago feeling the heat from the pressure or the public about that call, is trying to tell Dom to like pull back on her investigation and picking up Mobley and all this stuff. One of the F Society henchmen shows up at the apartment or whatever, and he's like severely injured, like purple in the torso. Is that all right? So being a firefighter, Chad, and probably seeing your fair share of like body trauma, like, is that kind of what maybe that would look like? It just
Yeah.
looked very purple to me, like
Like
almost
Yeah,
like
I
your
mean,
microphone.
yeah, it would. Yeah, I mean, it would look similar to that. Most shows get that stuff pretty wrong. I'll be honest. But that one was okay. The one that I felt was really wrong was actually the suicide I was talking about. Like the blood's just way too bright in that scene, and yeah, that's.
I don't know
definitely
why
what
I'm
it was,
laughing
yeah.
at that. It's not very
Yeah.
funny. But okay, good. Well, anyways, this guy, was at the house that they burnt, the lawyer's house. So Cisco brings him back, and he's like, "Look, man, this guy clearly needs medical attention, or he's gonna die." Darlene doesn't want to take him. She ends up doing it because at the end of the day, Darlene has a soul, even though she's a murderer now.
Yeah, she murdered, and they dog kennel burned the lawyer lady.
Yeah.
Paid him off with e-coin.
Yeah. Oh, rough.
On top of having the skill of hacking, it would be very nice to have one of those furnaces too, just in case. You never know when shit might go down.
They're very complimentary, right?
Yeah.
Because like when your hacking gets you like into a corner, you have a way out.
Yeah, exactly.
Murder and burning the evidence.
Yikes. Yeah, so they take him to the hospital, and this whole time Dom's been working the case. She ends up getting a lead with a composite sketch of Cisco as he was going back to the lawyer's house to look for a tape that Darlene left. While they're at the hospital,
the bolo goes out for Cisco.
Yes. Somehow, how does she know to look at the hospital? Does somebody tip Dom that they're at the hospital, or like?
Yeah, because the attendant at the desk saw the bolo and was like, I totally just saw him here.
Right. So Dom goes to the hospital where Darlene and Cisco were like having a moment. It's a good moment, good story. A lot of development with Darlene this season, which is really good. They decide to leave because the doctor's like, yeah, we're not really going to know anything for about an hour or so. So they decide to head down the road, grab a bite to eat. So this scene, holy crap, the end of episode 10, you have Dom coming into frame. The shot is just a still from across the street. It's what, a 4-lane road with like a median in the middle, so essentially like 5-lane road.
Boulevard, yeah.
You're like across the street, so the diner's in the background, kind of small. You can make out people in there in like Cisco's hat, but you can't like really see their faces or anything. Dom's like front of the scene here is kind of looking around, sees the diner, sees them in there, goes across the street, goes in the diner, and goes to their table, starts talking and what we assume to be confronting Darlene and Cisco. As this is happening, you hear a motorcycle come from beside the diner, pull up right in front of the camera. It's a driver and a passenger on the back. The guy in the back gets off, has a gun in his hand, walks up, right in front of the diner, and just unloads into the diner. You hear the police sirens coming because Dom called for backup. The guy, the motorcycle guy just kind of like takes off.
No,
With
so the cops come. Dom comes out of the diner,
shoots
shoots
the guy
the
in the
shooter,
leg.
the
Yes.
gunman. So he's shot in the leg. At that point, the cops are showing up. The motorcycle driver leaves, and Dark Army Sal just like blew his brains out.
Yeah, I
as the
hope we.
cops rolled up.
Yeah, I hope we get more on these henchmen, because I want to know, because that's the second time this season that we saw one of them get wounded and then
Oh yeah,
shoot
we haven't
themselves
even talked.
immediately.
Oh, okay. So after this, we got to rewind and talk about Dom in China and that whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dark Army guy just blows his brains out, and then like the credits roll, and you still hear the sirens and everything. Like there's no music.
Great scene, man.
Crosswalk
camera
sign counts down.
Yeah, camera view does not change, stationary the entire time. Love it.
So cool. Yeah.
One thing I noticed that I text Nick, and I don't know if either of you picked up while it was live. I don't know why you would, because you're probably not like autistic like me and pay attention to these things. But as soon as the motorcycle pulls in, right, the crosswalk like countdown from don't walk to it's okay to cross the street starts at like 18 or something. As soon as the guy gets in front of the diner, lifts his gun up and shoots, it hits 0.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Perfect. But yeah, I remember seeing the scene for the first time and just being like jaw on the floor, like, what just happened? And this is how they're gonna end the episode. And then like there's no music or anything to break up the trauma that I just experienced. You just hear the sirens going still. Oh.
Yeah, great scene, man. Great way to end the episode. I love that she shot one shot and hit the dude in the leg. That was like very FBI agent of her, you know.
Dom is pretty good.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed.
She
her
got
in
some
the
weird
hospital.
personal tendencies, but she's
yeah, she's lonely. She just works really.
BFFs with Alexa.
Yeah.
But when she's in the hospital, she's like, you know, they're just all brushing off. Like Santiago, I think, is in there, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, they definitely saw the bolo and they booked it." She's like, "No, that doesn't make sense." Like she's doing the timing, like, you know, we got the call at this time. It was before the bolo, or like right after the bolo. If they said an hour, like she's piecing it all together in mind. She's like, "There's nothing around here." Like she walks like 5 blocks to like find this diner.
Yeah.
Which I mean, is kind of like plot armor ish, but it's also just assumed that like she's really kind of sharp, like she's super sharp.
But I
at
mean,
this stuff.
It's not that out of the like realm of possibility, right?
No, not at all.
She goes to a bar that's closing, and she's like, "Oh, you're closed. Have you seen anyone that looks like this?" Like, and so it's not like it was. She just stumbled upon like.
Yeah.
I mean, she did just stumble upon the cafe or diner, but it wasn't like the first option, right? She had clearly been looking, and I mean, if you think about it, it's not. I mean, just walking distance from the hospital. You only got a few options, I would imagine, if you're familiar with the area. But yeah, perfect scene. I love it so much, so great. But we need to talk about Dom. Smart cookie, like we alluded to, she knows, very knowledgeable on the cyber security, the hacking, all that stuff. Obviously, it seems like that's her field of expertise, but she is like on the button with all of her leads. There you go. With all of her leads here on this case. And like you have the dingus superior government official, right? It's just like, I mean, we got to kind of pump the brakes, Dom. Okay, it doesn't actually work like that. Like you got to think about all the implications. Like let's just slow it down a bit. But yeah, the big thing, like solo Dom story here, besides all the sad and depressing, lonely like conversations with Alexa, she goes to China to talk with their officials to talk about the hack, of course, because
Party with White Rose.
That's right. The hack, of course, took place in the Steel Mountain facility, but also the China facility, so they are working together.
Now rebranded as Steel Valley, which is funny.
Yeah. comes to learn that the person she's meeting with is White Rose, who we saw at the end of season 1. I think this is the first introduction of him after that post-credit scene.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe there were some conversations with Philip Price. I can't recall. But yeah, we have like a cool scene between Dom and White Rose with all the clocks and then like talking about the art and stuff. White Rose is trying to get to know Dom, obviously because he's White Rose, so he kind of wants to know what the FBI knows about what's going on, of course. But the big takeaway here is, since the FBI kind of knows a lot, the Dark Army kind of wants to take care of that situation in the Dark Army style. So there's just a nice little shoot up.
Yeah.
Which did that catch you off guard? Did you see that coming?
Yeah, completely. I actually think this scene is cooler than the one at the diner. Just because it comes out of left field, dude. I had to rewind it because I was like, dude, those guys come right onto screen. I didn't even see them. I didn't even see them at all because I wasn't even paying attention.
She's like hungover, like the whole
Yeah, she's like
pacing
eating a
and
fucking
vibe.
donut or something, and I was so focused on the donut that I didn't see the gunman walking in the front door.
It seems so routine, so like just a your typical scene or whatever, and like focus on all these different things that you think you're building toward, and it's like, nah, I'm about to just cap all these FBI guys.
Yeah. And it's perfect because it's, again, well, unlike episode 10 where it's that stationary view, this one is just fixed on Dom the whole time.
Yeah.
You don't really see the chaos happening. You just see her
You hear it,
ducking for cover behind the thing, and then like the camera is just focused on her like panicking and trying to assess the situation and solve this,
grabbing the gun, and
but yeah, like Chad, like you said, this is the first instance of seeing the Dark Army henchmen not sticking around to be interrogated or anything. She takes one down again. I don't know what it is with her and shooting people in the leg or whatever, but maybe she should point the gun up a little higher. She's trying to like
them.
Yeah, and she wants to question this person.
Yeah.
And that's how you can tell that it's television, because I don't think real cops do that for whatever reason.
I think
you feel like that would be something they would train, is to like shoot somebody in the leg, maybe. But
no, I think like I remember, obviously because of, not to take this there, but all of the stuff that happened in the last couple years of like police brutality. Of course, that's like the main question. Like, why do these police shoot to kill? And I think it's like, especially in this case for Dom. These people are clearly trying to kill everybody. So I think shooting them in the leg while this guy still has a gun, probably not a wise decision, because he could still shoot you, which he is clearly trying to do. But I understand TV and she wants to question, blah, blah, blah.
And that's kind of that's kind of like the argument, though. Like, even people that are life threatening to others, like, you still probably maybe shouldn't just murder them. Like,
right.
Yeah. It's
hard
a tough, tough decision to make in the moment when your life is in the balance. But some last real life thing, some of those situations, life probably not in the balance, but we'll just end the conversation there. So yeah, that happens, and of course Dom's like, okay, well, this is I'm clearly on the right path because they're trying to kill us, because we are on the right path here. And of course freaking San Diego's like, Dom, just take a couple weeks, maybe a couple months. You've been through a lot. Like, maybe you should, go get some counseling or something.
Yeah.
You just saw all of your coworkers get slaughtered in front of you.
No big deal.
How about the racist guy, though? Can we just talk about that guy at the party where he's like, this food's disgusting. Where's the General Tso's?
Yeah. He's like, it made me gag.
Yeah, it's like, she's like, I don't think it works like that over here. He's like, I'm gonna go ask somebody.
Oh dear.
But yeah,
I like that whole scene in China is really cool. I like that he points out the clock, and she's like, I had the same one like when I was a kid.
Yeah.
He's like, they told me it was one of a kind.
Yeah, she's like,
like,
no, Kmart,
a lot of money.
$11. Yeah, and to use one of your catchphrases there, bro, we'll just put a pin in that one.
Okay.
'cause I got a lot to say about clocks and White Rose's fascination with time. So do we just want to go to the? I mean, I guess it's the end of the season to wrap up
Yeah.
Dom and Darlene's storyline.
Yeah. Wrap them up because that's a very cool moment.
Is this like your other twist, or is this like your half a twist? I'm trying to determine what your other twists were besides the prison.
Well,
To me, this is the other twist.
okay, so the other big twist never happened, but all it's being laid out before us. You just don't know, I guess, until season. I don't know when it actually gets twisted, but um,
When it
the
gets twisted.
breadcrumbs are all there for those that have seen the show once. So I was thinking how quickly they were like laying it out that it was going to be the like end of the season reveal, but they never quite like hit that nail on the head. They left it for later. But yeah, so really after the diner gets shot up, obviously Darlene's now in custody because
Which I love how they took like an episode before that. So you're like, are they all
is she
dead?
dead?
Who
Yeah.
died? Who survived? Did anyone survive?
Which makes me curious, like, why did only Cisco get like capped in that whole situation? Because they were all at that diner table, and he
Right.
like clearly did like a cross spray back and forth.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I don't know why only he got shot and those two did not get shot, but whatever.
Plot armor.
Darn gun. But anyway, yeah. So much like Mobley found himself a few episodes prior, we have Darlene right now being interrogated by, I believe, Santiago and Dom. So Dom always tries to take this like good cop kind of like approach, and she really tries to level with people. But I think it is somewhat sincere. Like she really tries to like kind of open up to like the people she interrogates, to like kind of just like,
Because she's so lonely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
She
it.
kind of, and that's kind of like a character thing there with her, is like she is kind of so lonely and like loves work so much. She kind of really gets into the heads of the people she's chasing. And like she kind of harbors a similar resentment for the FBI as the people she's interrogating. She's like, yeah, this is all messed up. This is all stupid. We're trying to do bigger things. So you should at least talk to me so we can get this going a little bit more. The usual routine, but it comes off a little bit more sincere for Dom because she has that extra like character development to why she is that way. But obviously she's really trying to break through to Darlene, who keeps invoking her fifth, blah blah blah. But eventually she does make some headway.
Could I just interrupt you for just a second here? I love it when Santiago goes off on her and he's like, I got to find what I sent you, because I sent you what he said and it was good.
Oh, was that from him?
Yeah, but I'm looking through our our DMs here, and I realized there was a huge chunk of conversation about folding children's clothes. We went on quite a little tangent there. Oh man, I gotta find it. Where are you? Where
I need
are
like
you?
a separate place to send me your show notes.
Oh, I didn't. It's because I actually didn't send it to you. I actually wrote it in the show notes. He says, "You're not on some TV show," which I always love it when they do that. And then he's like, "This isn't Burn Notice."
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Throwing shade at another USA show.
Another
Love
USA
it.
show, yeah.
That was my thought. I was like, that's a USA show, isn't it? Which is funny.
Yeah.
Good writing. But anyway, I forget, how does she finally get her? Does she just like tell her to come with her when she walks her out of the room?
She shows her the bullet casing, which
she lays out all
from
the
gun
camera.
she stole from the rich dude that she was sleeping around with, that she hid in the arcade. Pulls out the camera and I don't think she has the videotape. She has the mask that they use in the recording. So she does all that, and then that's kind of what Darlene's like, okay, crap.
Starts to really kind of break it down to her. Yeah. But the cool thing is, like, Dom takes her out. Everyone's kind of staring at them. I think, is that because it's weird that she's leading like the suspect like through like the bullpen kind of thing?
It could be. I took it as like who the suspect is, right? Especially after the reveal. Because it's a player in one of the
major
craziest like crimes to take place in the history of the world. They're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, that's
oh,
how I took it. Yeah.
Like got her.
yeah,
But yeah, but she takes her into basically like the war room where they have the the board of all the
the
lines
Charlie
drawn
Day
in the
board.
Charlie Day board. And I really enjoy like them going like Darlene looking that over because they do it like where like you see Darlene, but you see like the board panning and you're kind of like going over all the bits and pieces, all the dead people, and just like the FBI has it like basically it's a recap of the story and all the
They got it
characters.
figured out.
Yeah, like they have
Yeah.
it like dead on figured out, and it confirms the illusion of like the like 16 suspects that they were freaking about earlier, Mobley and Trenton, because they're like 16, and like if Romero was one of them, like we're definitely on that list too. Like
Mhm.
they don't just have Romero and not us too.
Yeah.
But yeah, nestled right in the middle of this chart is not just Elliot, right? Which goes from Darlene's face when she finally pans to her face, and then you go to Elliot. But then right connected with Elliot in the middle is our boy,
Tyrell.
Tyrell,
Yes.
all in the middle. I guess at this point still presumed dead
Yes.
or missing.
I also love the little tidbit they throw in there, like, yeah, it seems like Romero really, his death really kind of spooked you guys, but yeah, it's just kind of a freak accident.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
just a
A
stray bullet, like,
from the neighbor.
Man,
Yeah.
what do you know?
Spooked him.
But yeah, they have everyone. Mobley's on there, Trenton's on there, Romero, obviously Rip, Elliot as
Dark
Sam
armored people.
Espiol or whatever, Sam Sepiol. You have Darlene, Angela's on there, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Tyrell, and
Because
then
Angela is in the Gideon bucket of
Gideon's
people
on
that
there,
used to
Rip.
work at All Safe.
Yeah, can we
Dark
just
Army
gloss
people are there.
over Gideon real quick because he was another one who bit the dust. Poor
Episode
guy.
1 or 2.
Yeah, it was soon.
Yeah,
Also
rough.
not the greatest way to go. Like the dude just shot him in the neck.
Yeah. Worst way
from
to go.
from
At a
like knee to
bar.
the wall.
Yeah.
Can't
Shot him
get
in
it
the
line
neck.
up a good clean kill shot. Like he's just sitting there taking a drink, man.
Right.
But yeah, man, I feel so bad for Gideon because he's just like a dude trying to do his best, like trying
I
to
think
run his business, gets wrapped up in this whole thing, and then just gets taken out because some crazy conspiracy like Alex Jones guy's like, you're a crisis actor.
Yeah.
But who said it? Was it Price that said basically like he's the perfect kind of like scapegoat to kind of like pin a lot of the public blame on? It's just like this good guy that doing his job, trying to
Yeah.
be a good old
Rip.
good boy.
Yeah, rest in peace. We need some kind of like in memoriam for everyone who bit the dust this season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was one of the other big reveals for me. Obviously, first viewing, like, holy crap, the FBI knows everything, or at least knows everyone involved, which is no bueno.
Right.
Which also is funny because Elliot was in jail, so like, couldn't they have just
Kept him
there?
Yeah, right.
Well,
They don't
Yeah,
have
'cause they don't
evidence.
they don't hint
have
at
the
it throughout the
evidence.
season that they know all this stuff either.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it seems like they don't know anything. So
Well, and like all throughout the conversations with Dom and Santiago's like, we don't have anything against these people. Like
Yeah.
right now, it's just all speculation, Dom, and we can't hold them.
yeah.
Well, and that's the thing about those like Charlie Day webs. You don't need evidence to make those, and you can they're fairly accurate because all they're really doing is tracing relationships. So it's very apparent that like
Right.
here's Darlene, here's Elliot. Like the web is there. It's just
Mhm.
like, what is it?
How do
like
we
we know they're
We need the pieces for the puzzle.
yeah. We have all the players. We just don't have like the board.
Yeah.
just kind of floating over it.
Yeah. So of course, Darlene. We end with Darlene crapping her pants.
darn.
Yeah, and all right. So we took care of Leon, Cisco, Dom, Ray. We
Darlene.
talked about Darlene. We talked about Elliot and Mr. Robot. We need to talk about one of my other favorite characters, and that is Philip Price. Not because he is a good character, but because he is so so well written and well acted. Like,
Him and Elliot, or him and Angela would go in the same.
yes. Oh man.
Same.
Do we want to talk about White Rose at all before we get into that aspect? Or I guess White Rose will come up
It
in
ties
this.
in a little bit, yeah.
White Rose is most closely related to Angela and Price.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So then I'll talk about the clock thing when we get to the end of this, because I want to throw
TikTok.
out something that was heavily speculated on, and I will neither confirm nor deny if the speculation came to pass or not. But I
Okay.
want to see what you got, if you guys picked up on it at all throughout seasons 1 and 2 so far, and what you kind of think this could be alluding to, because it's very interesting. So yeah, Angela. She gets a job at E Corp, works her way up the ladder by the end of season 1, right? We come here in season 2, and Price has become fond of her. Like, where do you want to go with this, Nick? Because there's, again, just so much going through my mind right now that I don't want to just rehash step by step.
Yeah, don't do that.
Because there's just too much. I need you to direct.
Okay. So, obviously, we get building on the season 1 after credit scene with Price and White Rose, right? Now that he knows that's White Rose, but we get a lot of exposition around Price, White Rose, in terms of like this larger game they are playing and these dealings that they have. Like, there is the Washington plan, which turns out to be some sort of project that White Rose cares very, very much about, to the point of killing the prior CEO of E Corp, right? Price's predecessor. And then there's Price, who has his kind of like agenda to push eCoin to kind of
where's
become
Jordan
the new
when you need
standard.
him, right?
I know.
Crypto.
Push the centralized crypto eCoin, and make it like on par with like the dollar. That will help correct the economy, but also obviously make E Corp super powerful. Basically, make them the new Federal
ridiculously
Reserve.
powerful.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
So lots of dealings kind of going there, where they're building this like super macro picture of like the whole corporate scale, like in this type of event, who's taking advantage of it, right? And like there's a good bit in there where they're advertising eCoin as like greatly geared for like the lower and middle class, blah blah blah. Obviously, like the upper class makes all the money off of like that kind of stuff. But this is all, I think, very motivated by the 2000 like housing market crash, because everyone all those middle and lower classes lost their ass on it, and then the banks all just got bailed out and everything. So like that's kind of like the exposition on that. And like I'm watching this now, I'm like, man, it's like so relatable to like even things today. But I'm like, oh wait, no, because they already happened before this show like came on. Like this shit just happens like every 10 years at this rate.
I was wondering about the Snowden stuff. Did the Snowden have what year did this season air?
That is very well placed, in that the Snowden stuff was like all in that time frame, like the middle teens.
Yeah, because I think that was like Snowden was let me look it up. 2013.
I was in college. It was like 2012.
Season 2 is 2016.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. So
Snowden was
after
like
it.
2013, 2014, 2012-ish.
Yeah, 2013.
Yep. Yeah, so once again, like well placed, talking about like the Patriot Act, the mass spying. So those are all very fun themes that this show capitalizes very well on, for being super recent, right? They're covering kind of like economic politics from like 2007 forward.
On the topic of being like recent and relevant with the times, like crypto in 2016, talking about it being like this like prevalent player in like the mainstream economy. Like, is Mr. Robot predicting the future?
It was already kind of on the rise. Sam or who the writers were just really privy
Yeah.
to kind of like the first like Bitcoin pump when it pumped in 2017.
Which
And
was
then
after season 2, by the way.
yeah,
Just
correct.
saying.
Yeah.
Sam is. We got a little bit of the Simpsons going on here, where he's like
Kind of.
time traveling, predicting the future. Anyways.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good writing, and it's super relevant. And it gets weird in there because like there's the Snowden thing, and it's that's a couple years before a lot of stuff about like market crash, which was 2007. But then like it's even like right on the nose with like the Bitcoin, eCoin stuff. But yeah, so a lot of cool price exposition, whether it's like understanding his conversation with the other dude, Angela's like first nemesis that got her the job.
What's his name? Kobe?
Colby. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when he asked Price, just like, why do you do it? Like all of it. He's like, huh. And like you can see Price is like genuinely like thinking about this. And he's just like, every time I'm in a room, I ask myself, like, am I the most powerful person in the room? And he's like, the answer is always yes. Right. And that's my motivation. Except for like what? Maybe
One or
two.
two, yeah.
Maybe two. And I like the way he said that. He was like, one, yeah, two. Which is fair. And I was probably like, yeah, probably like, not the president of the United States, but there's probably like, it's probably like some like a Chinese leader and
Yeah.
maybe like a Russian leader or something like that that would just completely own his shit. I don't know. Maybe White Rose. Him and White Rose have an interesting relationship. Anyway, lots of exposition, but like it's so scattered throughout like those elements because we always get a little bit of Angela's story in every episode. It's very rare we go without getting a little bit of Angela Price movement. But we only get like little bits of it at a time.
Yeah.
Like we don't get like a whole 40-minute or 20-minute segment like the 90s.
Yeah. This was a big season for Angela.
Yeah.
Big season starting a cascading snowball of character development. Yeah, Price, man. Some of those scenes that you're talking about, Nick, of his exposition, like when he's in the conference room with what I believe is like White House people or government officials.
I want to say that was like the press or not the press secretary, but like
when he's in there and he's just like absolutely owning them. Like, I'm just like, oh my goodness, dude. The conversation he has with Angela when he invites her to dinner, but he's got like the other two director level employees there, and they leave, and he's like, all right, well, you remember that case that you're trying to like, do the whole reason you got a job here, that I know about, by the way, you'd be ruining their lives, and they're just like perfectly normal people. Like, but they also were in the room like while all that happened. So like,
they're in the room
doing this?
Yeah.
And they do all this insider trading that really like it's beneficial to their normal lives, right? So it's like he's constantly like testing her in terms of like her beliefs on like this system that she hates so much.
Yeah. Which, by the way, she still turns him in.
Yeah, she does.
She doesn't hesitate. She's like, I don't care.
Yeah, and you have a lot of her where like her uncle or her dad's friend at like the 4th of July party at the bar, just like he like starts off with like just shaming her, and then she just like turns around and eviscerates him.
Yeah. I was like, when he said that to her, I was like, oh, you are a bad person. And then when she retorted, I was like, Angela, you are a bad person too. That was awful. Yeah, man, just from where Angela starts from.
Yeah, she goes through quite the change just from season 1 to 2. So
to like where she ends in season 2. Just
And she has like a mid-season crisis too, where she's like basically going to go turn herself in. That's when she meets Ellie on the subway. He's getting like the ghost messages from her as he is hacking, where presumably we think he's trying to figure out where the phone call to Tyrell's wife is coming from. But he meets up with Angela, and I don't want to not say this, but like they had that moment where they kissed, and like I'm pretty sure that like really happened. A little smoochy on the train because they're going their separate ways a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that
She like you said. Well, what causes Angela to have this crisis? I love how we basically talk about a character and then go too far and realize, oh, we got to go back a few
You got to
steps.
go back a little. Yeah.
Is what causes Angela's crisis here is she is the tool that Darlene and Mobley and Trenton use to hack the FBI. She is the boots on the ground. She plants the femdocell in the FBI floor,
Dom is hot
runs
on
the
her
script.
tail.
Yeah, Dom knows what's going on, but she's the one that essentially executes the hack from within the building. And Dom confronts her, and then the next thing we know, she's freaking out because not Dom confronts her in the office, but then is like waiting for her in her apartment, or like comes to her apartment and just comes inside, starts eating a sandwich. She's like, by the way, I know what you're doing. Like, it's only a matter of time before I have the physical evidence to nail you here. So Angela's freaking out, and like Nick said, meets Elliot on the subway. They have a moment where she's like, I'm gonna turn myself in. I can't handle this anymore. And Elliot doesn't really do anything to stop her. And then they smooch and then go their separate ways. Excuse
That's
me.
the interesting thing about like why the Patriot Act exists is for the situations where you have a Dom scenario where like on paper they have it all.
Right.
It's all there, but there is no physical evidence to convict them, right? So in for that argument, like the Patriot Act and things like that make sense. So like, do you even have those things exist in the first place to even get through those loopholes there in like the legal system where you need physical evidence? Whereas obviously the counter to that is also the government is full of idiots and they just like the mass like spy on millions of Americans because they just don't know what they're doing and they just
Yeah,
like
well-
go out and look everywhere.
Yeah, but the problem with that is America is filled with idiots as well who think that they're going to get caught doing something. You know, damn well most of the people that bitch about that stuff have nothing to hide whatsoever. They just like
Right.
bitching. It's
Yes,
like who
correct.
gives a shit? I don't have it. Like you're going to hear crying kids and screaming, and you know it's not going to be very. You'll probably last 5 minutes if you tap into my stuff. So
Yeah.
If you want to hear like 90% of like the rowdiest things I say, like just tune into the podcast.
yeah,
and,
right, exactly.
You'll get the general gist of it.
This is about 90% of the talking I do every week.
Yeah.
In these 3
Accurate.
hours.
Accurate.
Otherwise, you're just gonna hear click clackety on my keyboard over here while I feverishly research Pokemon games to play. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
mean,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of like, but you have the whole situation with the drug dealer. God, what was his name?
Vera.
Right?
Yeah.
Who like the entire drug operation was like on Snapchat or whatever. And like they were like, dude, you literally did all your drug deals through like tweets and
Yeah.
like
Poorly
your
coded tweets.
poorly coded tweets. Like we know what this means, that means. Like
Yeah.
then you have those situations where it's like no physical evidence, but all the
Like I
writing's on
said,
the wall, buddy.
yeah. Idiots, like I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Elliot leaves the train, and Angela stands up. She looks like she's getting ready to leave, but she's not going anywhere because she makes a couple new friends as soon as Elliot leaves, and she gets kidnapped by the Dark Army.
Peaceful.
I thought for sure she
kidnap.
was getting arrested there, to be honest with you, because
Yeah.
it was the same thing that Dom had said to her. They're going to snatch you off the street and put you in a dark cage or something like that. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, she's totally getting arrested right here. But
I mean, but I think Dom was talking about the Dark Army or something because like the
oh, was
FBI
she?
wouldn't
Maybe, yeah.
do that. Like I
I
think
mean,
Dom
a
was trying.
jail is a dark cage, so that's how I took it.
But I took that as like the nicer side of Dom where she tries to like empathize with
Yeah,
her.
you could come with us, or you
Yeah,
could
like
get
come with
this.
me now, or like somebody is going to snatch you up off the street, and it's not going to be good.
Are you guys ready to talk about this experience?
Yes.
This
The Angela
kidnap
White Rose.
Yeah.
experience, and then the the Angela with the little girl, and then the White
20
Rose.
28 minutes with White Rose. Like when she said that, I was like,
That's a
holy
lot,
crap.
That is
Elliot got like
got
2.
3.
Yeah,
2 or 3
3.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and White Rose even says that. She's like, that's significant. So, but yeah. So first off, they just throw her in this van, and they're listening to like the Paul Bundy theme or something. I
Yeah.
don't even know the tale of Davy Crockett. I don't
Right.
remember what it was. They take her. They're in this like white collar subdivision. Like go through this Ryan home, which if you live in Northeast Ohio, you know what I'm talking about. You essentially just walk through my house. Interesting things to note: all the faces covered up,
Taped
all the
over,
pictures. Color scheme very monochromatic. You got whites and black. Very keep that in mind for future content. Plays a role. She's led into this room. Dark fish tank full of water. Big old whopping fish. Desk with a like 1982 like.
This reminded me of like a scene from the
Older than
Matrix. Like almost like a different
Yes.
like subdimension that she stepped into. Is weird.
There's
Very.
a book. What is it? Lolita on the counter. There's a phone, and then there's a motivational poster of the cat hanging on by one paw of the branch, hanging there.
Always in the background. It's just when you look at Angela, it's just there behind her.
Amazing.
Just hanging there.
Sits down, and a little girl, blonde hair in a ponytail, suspiciously similar to Angela's. Probably, I think she's wearing like little kids' business attire.
Yeah.
Sits down and starts asking Angela all these very
Super
odd
random
questions.
Yeah.
Angela, of course, like refuses to answer. The girl's like, "Hey, the fish tank's running out of water. We're running out of time. You need to answer the questions." And Angela's like, "Well, I don't want to."
What is going on here, bro?
And
have you ever
the
cried
girl's like,
during sex? That's the first question.
Just answer the question.
What is going on?
Angela's like, "What if I don't answer?" And she's like, "They hurt me." And lifts up her shirt to show her back. She's got bruises and everything. And so Angela's like, "Oh, I feel bad. I'll answer all of your weird questions for you." And they're all weird. Do you cry during, or have you ever cried during sex? Have you ever fantasized about murdering your father? Have you, like, what color are you?
Yeah,
or like, what
red or
animal
purple.
are you?
So
if you like, what is it?
Is the
like,
door locked?
Yeah, the door's locked. How do you open it, or whatever? Or
The phone call, the phone call bit, which was also very kind of like, I don't know, like the screen that was popping up on the computer was video like very video game like you would be playing
like
a video
Oregon
game.
Trail or something.
Yeah, and then the phone call was kind of like Matrixy, but also like one of those like horror games that's like fan made kind of ones.
Yeah. It's just a big like psychological breakdown of Angela here. Eventually she answers all the questions. The little girl leaves. White Rose comes in, and
Fish
like we
dead.
said, Fish is looking real gross over there in that empty fish tank.
First off, that fish was way too big for that fish tank, for the record. That thing was massive compared to it. So it didn't have much of a life anyway.
Noted Chad is a fish tank expert.
Aficionado. Yeah, exactly.
I think he's a fish tank aficionado. He's like, oh, way too big.
Yeah. Immediately hate this series. I'm not watching any more episodes.
So inaccurate.
Yeah. White Rose comes in, tells Angela she's got 28 minutes to talk, and then they have this very fascinating conversation. Do you want to go through that, Nick? Mainly because I don't remember many of the specifics.
I think kind of like the bulk of what's happening here is Angela keeps reoccurring in White Rose's story. Right, it's a reoccurring character that she just cannot get around, and like she said, you probably should have been dead 90 days ago, by all accounts. So, and Phil Price likes you. Obviously, you know Elliot. Like, you're just this weird piece to this puzzle I'm trying to understand. So, I think, and this makes Angela like a really cool character because it's like, whoa, 28 minutes from White Rose. Like, Angela might be more important than like we all think, right? And like you said, tons of character development this season. So it really kind of puts the spotlight on Angela here late in the season. That's like, hey, Angela, at least seemingly on paper, should be more important because White Rose is like, for the first time, really, even I think to the viewer, is like, oh, yeah, you're right, White Rose. Like, she kind of is like really in the mix
Always
here.
there,
As
right.
much as she likes Angela, kind of like pretends she isn't, like, they always show her appearing like when she needs to, kind of thing. Um, but she's not always present in the action.
Yeah.
But from like a White Rose perspective, like she's kind of like all over the place. So
Yeah.
this is like White Rose trying to really decipher like who, what, and why are you in my story. And obviously, she knows the whole connection with the Washington plant thing. She's like, you and Elliot obviously got to where you are because of that thing. Can you leave my thing there alone? Was really the gist of it. And she got her to go to her lawyer's house. That lawyer's house dropped the case, or like, don't ever call me, and like really back out of the whole. I forget what she called it, but it was really kind of like a blind ambition to like tear down this Washington plant situation, which there's a clause in there that Price is battling with the lawyers because early in the season she tries to get Price to settle the case and add that provision in, which means third party inspectors on the Washington plant. That's what like her dad wants. That's what all the people that are like activists for like fixing this want. But Price is like, yeah, no way. That's just the one thing I just don't want to settle on. Can't have that in there. So she's trying to settle the case, get that in there, but somehow still work it from within E Corp. But ultimately, White Rose gets her to like drop the matter mysteriously.
Yeah. I found, excuse me, the writer of the episode, Cora Adana, which that has to be a pen name, Cora Adana. Anyways, explaining the weird questions and some of the other stuff in the scene. So they say here, Cora says, the questionnaire in the game is designed to gauge how malleable Angela is. I actually love how the game's questions and the content of the phone call are reminiscent of those old C64 adventure, Commodore 64 adventure games. A little girl showing Angela her bruises could be perceived as a test of Angela's empathy, while the rest of the room or the rest of the house has a contemporary decor. That room feels like it's from a different time. This scene always makes me think of 2001 Space Odyssey, where Dave Bowman finds himself in that neoclassical style bedroom where time is completely warped. Then Core goes on to say, the room is full of references to time or of how time is fleeting. This includes the old rotary phone, the Commodore 64, the leaking fish tank, and the hang in there poster. There's also this notion of games here. The little girl loads a game from a disc, which has some other fun games stored on it. The reference to Lolita is not only connected to the location of the key, but many of the characteristics or many of the characters in Lolita consistently engage in games and puzzles. So there's a little background of the room setup and all that stuff. I was trying to find like some of the quote, like the dialogue between Angela and White Rose, but basically it ends with White Rose asking Angela, like, do you think that you can manifest something by believing it to be, right? That's like the crux of what she's asking. And Angela's like, well, I did, but I don't anymore because that's not how real life works. And White Rose says, well, who's like to say that people can tell you how, like, what's real and what's not, which was really interesting. So do you want to talk about the theory?
Yes.
You want to talk about? Okay, let's talk about the theory, guys. Okay, I will not say whether or not this fully comes to pass or does not come to pass and is purely just fan speculation, but this right here, season 2, this is when this theory started to crop up and really start to like gain some weight and movement in the fans of the show. So we have all these references to time, right? We have tons of Back to the Future references, like
Yeah.
movie posters,
Multiple,
lines, etc. White Rose and her clock, stopwatch, all of the clocks in White Rose's house, allotting people certain minutes. Like, she clearly has a fascination with time. There are a lot of dialogue lines between Price and White Rose referencing the importance of time and perception of time. We have this mysterious facility in the Congo that was referenced in the post-credit scene of season 1, and again referenced here in season 2 throughout the season between Price and White Rose. This is actually what Price interacts with Terry Colby for. He tries to get Colby to call in a favor from one of his government officials to basically annex the Congo to China. Because
Which
of
is
this.
kind of a real thing.
Yeah. I didn't know
Not
that.
literally the country, but China owns like a good chunk of Africa in terms of like mineral rights and all that
Interesting.
kind of crap.
Oh,
They
interesting. I
are,
didn't know
I
that.
did not know that.
yeah.
Wow. So we have this mysterious Congo facility, and then we have her fascination with whatever is going on at Washington Township. And the reason Price won't concede what Angela's asking him to do, these third-party inspectors, is because of White Rose pressuring Price. Like, we cannot mess with Washington Township. Like, this is vital. So all this stuff going on, and these theories of like, does this show have to do with time travel? Is there some weird like time manipulation, like alternate timelines, literal time travel back and forth? Like, is there something weird going on here? I wish I would have wrote down some of the like lines of dialogue that really like play into this, because there are some like really oddly specific like things they say in conversation where it's like, that is a very weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And you guys watching, did you maybe pick up on any of this stuff, or?
I have definitely picked up on the Back to the Future stuff. The time thing for White Rose, I don't know. I assumed at first that he was just obsessed with time, but then I was like, is he like dying of cancer and he's got like 6 months to live, so he's divvying his time up to get as much done as possible before he dies. But dude, this show has subverted every thought that I've had in my brain, so like I don't even know, like, you know, sure that's all
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of, I would be curious, like what like scenes too that like have evidence of
I'm
it.
super curious, but I'm not going to look it up because I don't want to
Well, like,
spoil anything.
okay,
Because
so
it subverts, because it does so much subversion of just like you don't really know what you're watching, so it's just really weird to like cling on to just like fractional pieces of the show and be like, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
Where it's like clearly they prove that they can just pull the rug at any moment and be like,
Right.
yeah, no, really.
So season 1, White Rose in her conversation with Elliot says she hacks time. Interesting.
Time hackers.
Man, I was really hoping they'd have more like quotes readily available in this article that I could read.
That's like
that was it.
You probably need to go to Reddit, honestly.
Yeah.
That's probably where like the theory is actually written at. Those
but I mean,
Redditors
like,
go ham.
while I'm frantically searching for some of these lines, like, what do you guys think about that? I mean, Nick, obviously you've seen the entire show, but like, okay, so I'm not going to ask you because I don't want anything to come out that shouldn't come out. But Chad, like, what do you think? Like, what?
I don't know. I think that it probably, at least currently right now, dips a little too into the science fiction side of things that we haven't really necessarily seen in the show so far. So for me, I don't know that I would grasp onto it, even with the tidbits here and there. But being a show where we're in season 2 now, we've already had 2 major twists that they were hinted at very, very obviously, when you go back and look at them, I mean, yeah, there might be something there. There might be something there.
Yeah, I kind of, even on like a second watch, I don't. That's just like not a theme that stands out to me as being like prevalent. Even though like knowing of that theory and looking for it, like just it's just not the thing I'm thinking about when I watch the show, and
Yeah.
like that's why it never really like stuck with me, or ever pops out to me, because there's so many other things that are going on that you are just
Right.
like, what is happening? Like I don't have the mental capacity to be like thinking some meta breakdown of this show when I don't
Yeah.
even know what I'm watching to begin
Yeah.
with.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I couldn't find any good quotes right off the cuff there. But this is where it kind of starts gaining traction, and so let's keep an eye out for that.
I
I'm
think
interested.
though. I think
Dad,
thinking
can you
forward,
chime in through the private chat or whatever? Did you pick up on any of this, or do you have any thoughts about this? But what were you gonna say, Nick?
I was gonna say, I think thinking forward to like the next seasons, I can see how this definitely picks up more steam.
Yeah.
Thinking forward, not too much, but like I can see it slowly. Now that you reminded me of it,
Yeah.
maybe I will. Pay more
It's definitely
attention.
interesting, and it definitely was something that it's interesting. The other interesting thing is how Angela's demeanor completely changes after this encounter with White Rose. And in the last time we see Angela here in season 2, well, not the last time because she's in like the last scene of the last episode, but
Cheers.
she gets dropped off at her lawyer's house, like Nick alluded to earlier. But her state of mind and like body language and how she interacts with the lawyer is so bizarre. It's
Yep.
like she's a catatonic like
Yes.
robot. The lawyer sees like the big black SUV out in the road, and she's like, "Are you in trouble, Angela? Like, are you
Right.
being threatened to do this?"
Like
And
wink if you're in danger, kind
yeah,
of thing.
exactly. Oh, the other thing is like all the rolling brownouts and stuff.
Yes.
What are
Yeah,
those?
yeah, yeah.
What does that have
Yeah.
to do with anything?
Right.
Not to continue
A
to go
lot
back.
throughout the season too.
Yes. So yeah,
But so nobody ever mentions it. It just
No.
happens that nobody's. So that's like what I'm saying. Like, I don't even know if 80% of the shit we're seeing is even real. You know what I mean? Because nobody reacts to fucking anything on the screen. Like there's blackouts happening. Nobody's reacting whatsoever.
And the camera's always off center.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about coming on tonight and just sitting here.
Yeah.
And that's how I sit anyways.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, it's just like her demeanor has totally changed, and like she like that encounter clearly affected Angela. Like, did it break her? Did it like turn her into like, is it like Peter Parker's spider bite? Like, is Angela now like some crazy like corporate superhero working for White Rose now? Like, we'll definitely find out soon enough. Oh, Dad, I was asking what you like. Did you pick up on any of this like timey-wimey stuff? Like,
for a guy that doesn't know what you're talking about, that's you're just gonna confuse him more.
That's a Doctor Who thing. I don't even watch Doctor Who, but anyways,
so how do you even know it?
Because I had a friend who watched it a lot, and I always made fun of him, and he would say timey-wimey stuff. Anyways, did you pick up on any of the hints at a potential like time travel, time manipulation happening, or is this all just like brand new news to you? And if to expand upon that, like, how does it make you feel? Like, do you think that's a possibility, or like, or would that make you mad if that happened? Like, what do you do with this show? Like, don't lost us here. He said no, but I guess it makes sense. Brand new news. All right, well, hang on to your butts, because season 3 and 4 are gonna be crazy. But yeah, so Angela is this new person. Next time we see her is very end of the episode, which we need to talk about, because Elliot, like Nick said earlier, he helps Joanna's. Oh man, that's a whole other thing we need to talk about. Tyrell's wife, Joanna. That lady is psycho.
Yeah, 100%.
She's like using the bartender from the party at E Corp to replace Tyrell for needs and services. She keeps getting all these like gifts in the mail, packages. She gets a phone, right? And then she keeps getting these phone calls where there's nothing on the other end. You just hear like Chad's voicemails rustling in pockets and like at one point like a fire truck or something is going down the road outside of her house, and while she has a call and she can hear that through the phone, so she's like, oh my gosh, the person that's calling me is like around here.
That whole thing like completely duped me for a second time too, because I'm like,
Same.
oh yeah, they
I'm
just
not
get
gonna lie,
Tyrell's
same.
location.
Yeah.
And then they go through all that, and like even Elliot's like, oh my god, like she's crazy, or like, is that really Tyrell? Like he's like really confused.
Yeah.
And,
so the whole time, we're thinking like, oh, Tyrell's sending her messages, right? That he's not dead, right? No, that's not the case. But Joanna picks up Elliot because she had an encounter with him. It was at the beginning of the season, right? Where they kind of like ran into each other on the sidewalk, or was that the end of last season? I can't remember.
End of last season.
So she knows Elliot knows Tyrell, so she like basically kidnaps Elliot, brings him to her house, and is like, "You're gonna help me figure out where these calls are coming from." And people don't say no to me, so I'm a psycho. So you should do what I want. So he does. He helps the bodyguard hack. The way that they figure this out is so cool. I love it. Where he basically impersonates a police officer. He's like, "Hey, I'm getting these calls from these blocked numbers. This guy is saying he's going to commit suicide. So, like, can you trace these for me?" Just like by fax.
Buys it immediately. Yeah,
it's amazing.
I do want to point out something that I loved when they go into the electronics store when he's getting all his hardware. The security guard stops and is playing Watch Dogs, which I think is fucking hilarious. That's what he's playing. That's what he's playing.
The other great thing is that it's Micro Center, which I thought was only in Ohio, but I guess maybe it's not only in Ohio. But there's one like in
that's an actual store.
I didn't know it was an actual store.
Yeah, the place is awesome. It looks just like that. Computer junk everywhere.
Yeah,
people that work, like all the dudes wear suits like that and are like hanging out. Like I would recommend anyone that's in the like computers and
that's my reaction to learning that's a real store.
Yeah, go to Micro Center. There's one about 30 minutes, 40 minutes north of here.
Also Fry's, the store post credit scene, it's an actual chain too.
Oh, also didn't know that.
But yeah, so oh shoot, what was I even talking about? Oh, so he hacks, he basically gets the police to figure out where this, what this phone number is. He Googles things and figures out where the call is coming from. He gets the police to give him the coordinates of where the call is coming from. Then he puts it in Google, finds the address, whatever. Shows it to the bodyguard. The bodyguard's like, "Are you kidding? Are you serious?" So Elliot's like either confused or thinks he just found Tyrell. We're like, "Oh, they just found Tyrell. Awesome." No, it was not Tyrell. It was that scumbag Scott Knowles.
Oh, it's so weird.
Which, by the way, like, again, I'm having trouble breaking up season 1 and 2. Does she start going to him at the end of season 1 to get Tyrell's like severance package, or does that start in season 2?
No, that's all.
I think it's
regardless. It doesn't matter because we've watched both seasons.
Right.
But so she's like going to Scott Knowles trying to get Tyrell's severance package because she hasn't gotten it yet, but he is withholding it because obviously he knows Tyrell murdered his wife, which, by the way, we find out that she was pregnant.
Yes.
Did you guys catch on to that before he does the reveal, or did you think that like Tyrell was sending his wife like an ultrasound of their baby as like a sentimental thing?
Definitely, she was just pregnant.
Yeah, so the dude who plays Scott Knowles like crushes that scene where he is just like just stupidly drunk on wine, like breaking down to her. Like he plays that so well. Like where he's at first he's like, "Yeah, I did it because I wanted you to feel the hope and then have it crushed like mine was."
Yeah.
The typical like mega douche Scott Knowles, but then he like breaks down. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I like that was." I just thought it was good. Again, I think that was like a genuine turn in his character, where I think he like actually was like, "Yeah, that was maybe that was a little too much." But
Also,
Joanna, being the psychopath that she is, just like eggs him on until he like beats her to within an inch of her death.
once again, this show is just really good at like eviscerating dialogue where just one other human being just absolutely like verbally brutalizes another one to make them just feel the lowest they could
Oh my
ever feel in their
gosh.
life. There's at least 2 of them per season, like so
Yeah.
far, where they're
Yeah.
just like unbelievably like
Yeah.
cruel. Whereas like Angela
Uh.
to her dad's friend or whatever, her uncle, whoever. This one here, there's
Dude.
definitely like 2 a season, because then there was the poor Steel Mountain
Oh yeah,
worker who makes a
Bob or whatever
cameo
his name.
in
Yeah, we
in this
saw him. Got a nice hug from old Bob.
when Elliot's making amends with everyone he
Yeah,
wronged.
that was a I love that scene because I think that's where like he's having that weird like fever dream where
Yeah.
they're all like having dinner in the alley while the the E Corp building like
Yes.
crumbles, and I was like, ooh, very
Foreshadowing.
reminiscent to maybe a tragedy that happened in New York City a few years
Yes.
earlier.
Yeah.
I was like,
Right.
oh yeah.
Or like the actual plan that's revealed at the end of the season.
Wow, dude. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, we got a good cameo from Bob. But yeah, Joanna just eviscerates Scott Knowles, and then he eviscerates her face.
Yeah.
With his but hey, she's been training for this. I mean, we've seen all
Yeah.
the
She has
training
been.
montages. So
She has been.
And when this does happen, I'm like, does this show have like an abnormal amount of like female brutality
It seems that
upon
way,
women,
yeah.
or is it just generally brutal across the board? I don't know.
I think it's brutal across the board, and really
Yeah.
coming from Game of Thrones, I don't think we can say that this has an abnormal amount of brutality towards
I think
women.
they don't discriminate the brutality, which is
Right,
what
that's what
makes
I
you
started to
think that
think.
it's unfairly towards females. But I think it's just no, that
Yeah,
just everyone gets brutalized in some way.
Yeah.
yeah.
So Joanna then uses this her new boy toy to like he's like, "Oh my gosh, who did that to you? Tell me, I'm gonna
But
get
he
him."
broke up with her and he was done.
Right.
And now he's not.
And she's like, "All right, so this is what we're gonna do. You saw him coming down the stairs that night at the party, like all sweaty and disheveled. And you tried to ask him what was going on. He didn't say anything. And basically, you're gonna tell the cops that he murdered his wife, and you saw him come from the roof." And the dude's like, "Ooh, yeah, I don't know if I can do that."
Yeah.
And she's like, "But you said you'd do anything. Don't you love me?" And he's like, "Ah, shucks, you got me."
Dude sucks.
So, with all that being said, Joanna's a psychopath.
Yes.
But we think that Elliot finally found Tyrell,
Hooray.
and he didn't yet. Then we have the amazing mind awake, body asleep moment where he like detaches from Mr. Robot, and you see, you know, him witnessing Mr. Robot
Do stuff.
like act out what's actually happening, and Mr. Robot is completely unaware that Elliot is there. And there's actually a really cool thing. This happens in episode 10, by the way. I realized I wrote down things that I loved from each episode, and I haven't mentioned any of them at all. So we'll go back and do that. But this one was one I wrote down. But Elliot is like talking to us like he normally does, but he asks us for help to see if we like notice anything. And I love the camera like pans up into like the
Yeah, that was
corner
so
of his
weird.
apartment and like almost does like a Dora the Explorer or like any child show. He's like, "Where's the triangle?"
Yeah.
Well, I
And
was
you're
like,
basically,
is there something for us to see there? Because I was like,
I don't
That's what I
remember.
was
what am I
too.
looking
I
Yeah.
don't
for?
remember, but I
Yeah.
love that they make you
Jump
think
scare.
that. They're
Yeah.
like, He's like, "Is there anything? Do you see anything that
Enough for me
we
to
could
pause
talk
it
to?"
and not see
Yeah,
anything. Yeah.
yeah. But
Chad's just
essentially,
so angry. He's just like, I don't see anything.
we
I
find
hate
out
this
here
show.
why Mr. Robot wanted so badly throughout the season to get back home, because he knows that there is like a coded message in the apartment. And we find out this is how we find out where Tyrell is. And I loved like the whole deciphering the code.
Yeah, it was really
It was
cool.
super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that like those codes are things, it just like blows my mind. Like
Mhm.
I kind of want to make a code of something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it would be or who would ever figure it out, but or if I could ever figure one out. So
Right.
anyways, we find out that Tyrell, we get a phone number, he calls and he's like, all right, meet me here. And this scene here with Tyrell and Elliot in the cab is so good. Because we have one of those moments where that Chad's been like talking about basically both episodes so far. Like we don't know what to believe, what is real and what is not, and it's perfect because Elliot is feeling the same exact way we are, because
so cool,
he
dude. Yeah.
freaks out in the cab, right? He gets in the cab, the cab driver's like, "Are you Elliot?" And he's like, "What?
Yeah.
Why?" And then, he's making the cab driver angry. Tyrell comes in, gets in the other seat, and I'm kind of sad that he wasn't like, "Bonsoir, Elliot."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just like my favorite thing to hear Tyrell say. But he gets in, tells the cab driver where to go. They start driving, and Elliot's freaking out. He's like, This isn't real. Like, I haven't known where Tyrell's been this whole time. Like, and he's like asking the driver, do you see? Is there a person here? Like, do you see him?"
Poor guy
And
can't speak English.
the driver's like, I think the subtitle said he's like speaking Arabic. He's like not speaking English. He's like, "Shut up, dude. You're freaking weird. Like, just let me drive you to where you told me to go."
Mhm.
And Tyrell's talking, and he's like, "Elliot, like, dude, what do you like? Calm down, bro." And Elliot's like, "Did you hear him say, like, did anyone say
Yeah.
anything? Did you hear
Yeah.
that?" And the whole time he's like freaking out. And it's just, oh gosh, it's so good because at this point, like, as the viewer, you're like, is this another personality?
You're
Like,
thinking,
is
yeah, dude,
Tyrell
that's, yep.
real?
Yeah.
Or is this another Mr. Robot? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on here? Because the driver doesn't answer
Nothing.
Elliot in a way that we can understand. So we don't
Right.
know what he's saying. Like, we don't
Nope.
know if he's like, "Yeah, there's somebody there, you idiot. Just let me
And this is
drive."
like so close to the lucid dream thing too. Like
Yeah.
I don't know that any of this shit really happened. If I had to guess, I don't think that any of this to the end of the season here with them happened at all. And Tyrell looks so weird. I don't know. Like I thought for a second that they changed actors. I don't know if he
No.
like gained weight or he just looked so different. I don't know.
He put on his freshman 15.
Yeah.
He's less
Haircut maybe,
stressed.
yeah.
He's not living that stressful corporate life. He's
Yeah.
like
Right.
just hacking in a warehouse,
Yeah.
guarded by the dark army. Like that's the gig, man.
It is interesting though, because like, did this car ride happen? Because like, obviously Tyrell's a very wanted man,
Yeah.
driving in a cab,
They're
and
standing
then
in the
like
middle of the street talking.
And they
while
get like kicked out of the right.
while Elliot's freaking out, Tyrell's like, "Just stop the car, we'll get out." Like, "Elliot, you're embarrassing me."
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're like just standing in the middle of the road in New York City, which, by the way, not a soul to be found. It's just Elliot, Mr. Robot, in the middle of the road,
Again. Yeah.
walking into a warehouse. Which, even if it's in like a unknown part of town, you're in New York City. Like, doesn't matter what time of day it is. It's the sun is out, so morning, afternoon.
Yeah.
It's definitely early morning.
Nobody's
Very early.
there is not a soul to be found. Is this real?
No.
We don't know.
I do.
We get into the warehouse. Return of my absolute favorite character, the hamburger guy, who was in season 1. He's the one who let Elliot in the little room with White Rose.
With White Rose, yeah.
He's back, still eating his hamburger, just being a bellhop, operating the elevator there for him. But we get up to the warehouse where Tyrell's been, his like base of operations. I love it. They see a bed in the corner, and Elliot's like, "You've been staying here?" He's like, "No, are you kidding me?"
Don't say you said all day. And you just
yeah,
freaked out in the cab.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
now that you point out the White Rose thing in the first season, that dude with the hamburger was like okay that he had a Tyvek suit on because they were in like a lab of some sort, but like why the
Yeah.
hell does he have a Tyvek suit and gloves on here?
Is he even real?
Hey, he's
So
not leaving any trace of DNA except for
that
when he
makes me
slobbers with his hamburger.
yeah,
I
right.
guess.
But that like leans me a little bit more to maybe there is some sort of time travel / lab research /
Hmm,
something else going on because it's just so out of place.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. But yeah, here, he shows Elliot. He's like, "Aren't you proud? Like, look at this awesome setup we have. We have these generators, so we don't have to worry about the brownouts and stuff." But he unveils stage 2, which has been a theme throughout the whole season. That Elliot was, and everyone was surprised, was Elliot's plan all along. And what's the plan here, Nick? What does he unveil to Elliot? Well,
Yeah,
Elliot
so
kind of unveils to himself because he apparently remembers as Elliot or Tyrell shows him stuff.
yeah, or I think I took that as he is just piecing it together, but I guess maybe he could be remembering it, but it does become apparent to him because it's kind of his plan, like whether it's him or Mr. Robot, like he gets it. But yeah, so because the first hack kind of eviscerated the that's the word of this episode here.
Yeah.
They eviscerated the digital copies of
Yeah.
all these records, stuff like that. But there are still the physical copies that are in all these different physical locations. Well, for whatever reason, E Corp is moving all of them to. Well, I know the reason. They're moving them all to the central location here in this big ass fortress-looking building in New York because
Yeah.
Elliot says that's how they're going to rebuild the database because they're going to take the physical records. They're going to basically re-enter them into the system and rebuild what they had lost. But conveniently, if all the physical records are in the same location, coming in these big E Corp trucks, I'm surprised they didn't say Evil Corp because Elliot was seeing them. But they're gonna level that building because they're gonna basically same kind of trick, but a little different. They're gonna basically overheat these backup generator batteries, which
Yeah.
are gonna release some
Gas,
some
and then
gas
something's
and
going to cause a
make
spark,
and go boom. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, that's enough to like level the whole building."
and then like season 1, Elliot's like, "Oh heck no, we ain't doing that."
He's like, "That's not cool.
Yeah, that's
People will get hurt."
Yeah, I don't want to do that. That's bad. So we have this again, just a absolute like perfect scene here.
Guys, Mike really likes this show.
Yes, but like again, because you don't know what is real and what isn't. And earlier in the season, Mr. Robot, and during a confrontation with Elliot, he pulls out a gun, right? And he shoots Elliot in the head. Elliot falls on the bed,
Yes.
gets back up, and he's like, "How many times are you gonna shoot me? Like,
Yeah.
you can't kill me, right?" So Tyrell keeps telling Elliot, like, we're doing this. Like, you can't undo this. I won't let you stop this. This is your plan, you lunatic.
Yeah.
And Elliot's like, he's not real. Like, none of this is real. I'm the one in control here. Like, he can't do any. Yeah.
He just got done having that cool like street scene where he's like, "Where'd Mr. Robot go? Wait a second, I am Mr. Robot. Like, I just need to know where I'm going."
Right.
I thought that was cool. So he's kind of capitalizing on this this power he thinks he's have, where he's like, "No, I am in control."
Yeah. And Tyrell gets a gun out and he's pointing it at Elliot and he's like, "Dude, seriously, like, I can't let you do this. Like, just stop, because I can't let you do this." And Elliot's like, "I can do what I want because I'm in control." And Tyrell shoots him. What did you think of this before you saw Elliot's hands?
I mean, he probably still thinks the same thing after he saw his hands.
Yeah,
like,
I thought.
Chad doesn't believe it's real.
Do you think Tyrell is real? Do you think Elliot really got shot here? Or
I do not.
Do you
No.
think this is another Mr. Robot, like in the prison thing?
I don't know. I don't know where I land on Tyrell. I'm definitely heavily leaning on that he's another personality and he's not real. But I don't think any of this happened whatsoever. I think he's lucid dreaming through all of this. I don't think any of this panned out in real life whatsoever. There's just too much weird shit going around it. The cab stuff was weird.
Yeah.
Tyrell randomly showing up out of nowhere for the first time in the season. Nobody around when they're out on the street in the middle of the day in the busiest city in the country.
And
Yeah, there's just a
Burger
lot.
Boy.
And then the shooting scene earlier in the season, I think maybe kind of hints that this one didn't actually happen as well. So I don't think any of this happened. I'm not sure where I land. I'm probably like 90-10 that Tyrell doesn't exist. I got to leave a little bit of 10% there because
like he never existed, or he's dead and he's just making him.
I think he's
manifest.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So
I don't know. I really have to think
banging
about
his
it
wife?
because yeah, dude. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, there's so much to go into it. That's a good point. Maybe it's a remanifestation. I don't think this Tyrell in this specific scene is real. 90-10%.
Well, with my theory here that they are the same person, he also has always when he meets her, he has the dialogue. He's like, I feel like she can hear me. I feel like she knows what's going on here.
Right.
So like she knows Elliot has multiple personalities, and she's trying to get him to find Tyrell, which is a personality within Elliot.
Right. Good point.
So
yeah.
Man, maybe they are the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happens, and it's very interesting. The only thing that I would say is
Dad said Joanne has a personality, so that would be really weird.
But then if they're both personalities, then who's the baby? Anyways, what do you make of the phone call then to Angela to end the episode? Because she says Tyrell, and it is Tyrell, and she's like, "Oh, you're with Elliot. I'll be right there." And Tyrell's like, "I love him."
Yeah,
and she's like, "So do I."
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's weird. It's weird that he says I love him. So I think she's probably talking to Elliot. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's just weird. Is that not weird that he's like, I love him? Like, I just out of the fucking blue, this dude just randomly shows back up and is now confessing his love for Elliot that he just shot. So I don't know, dude.
To Angela, because once again, like just like season 1, like Angela comes in when you wouldn't really, in a way you really didn't expect her, right? Teaming up with Darlene to like save Elliot, right? So here again, we have someone you wouldn't think like, okay, what? Like, why is Angela getting that phone call? And then she's like in on something. Like she's really self-aware of like, I'll be right there. Like, I gotta save him.
Like, because this happens after her encounter with White Rose, and clearly, White Rose has done something to Angela to get her on her side, right?
She locked her latent abilities.
Yeah. So is Angela now Team Dark Army and is like in on the inner knowings of what's going on? Does she know that the Dark Army is now working with Tyrell and where they are, and hence how she got this phone that Tyrell knew to call, or what's going on there?
Also, rip Cisco. Darlene's last encounter, like Cisco and her in the library with the Dark Army contact, like he was confused. He's like, and they intercept that conversation where he was like, what does he mean? What is phase 2? Elliot wants to know phase. It's Elliot's plan is phase 2. So at this point,
phase 2, by the way.
Yeah, this is phase 2. Elliot's idea, but the Dark Army is basically doing Elliot's bidding, like for him. So it's like, well, White Rose is also then in on that too. So like there's this weird web of like Elliot's running the whole kind of show. Everyone's kind of listening to Elliot. Elliot isn't aware that he's in charge. White Rose is like protecting the Washington facility for some reason, but is also propelling Elliot's moves against E Corp while working with Price. That there's this like huge web of like what is really going on here in like the tangible world,
which is like just taking place in Elliot's head, all of it. that's my guess. Is just because people that like have multiple personalities or schizophrenic, anything like that, they're always got government agents, secret Chinese government agents that are doing things to him, so who knows, dude, with this show, who knows? It's probably he's probably in a straitjacket in a mental facility and all this shit's taking place in his head.
Dang it, we don't have to watch anymore.
Angela's like his nurse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some kind of weird Inception thing where, like, much like the first 6 episodes in the prison, the entire show is an insane facility. Dad says, didn't she say, I want to be the first person he sees when he wakes up? She did say that.
She needs to be the first person because he won't like come out of it correctly, which is very similar to season 1, I think.
The key word, wakes up.
Yeah,
that's what I think's going on. He's fucking asleep.
Dad also says time traveler in a straitjacket. He might be onto something.
The straitjacket is how you time travel.
Exactly. Yeah, Nick, what I sent you in Discord, okay, I'm going to talk this out right here between you and I without revealing any information because that's a totally professional thing to do on a podcast when other people are listening. What I circled and read in that image leads into, or like lends itself to the whole time manipulation thing. But I don't know if that's something I should actually say right now or wait.
Don't.
Is that safe?
Just don't.
I mean, it's like half and half safe. Like,
okay.
Yeah, don't.
Remind me when that comes up again.
Yeah.
If you can remember. Neither of us are going to remember.
I think
maybe Chad will remember.
It'll come
maybe
up
I'll
naturally.
remember.
Yeah, because it's interesting. And it could play into a little theory or two. But anyways, yeah, so, man, a lot of stuff happens this season.
That's all happened. Post-credit scene.
Post-credit scene. Yes. Again, another post-credit scene.
Is that everything that happened, though?
What?
Is that everything that happened, though? Is that the end?
It's not everything that happened, but yeah, that's like everything we're going to talk about, really. So we get another post-credit scene. We're back with our friends, Mobley and Trenton. They're out in like Arizona or somewhere. I forget exactly. Working at a Fry's electronics store on their like lunch break or whatever, talking. And Trenton has stumbled upon some great idea that could potentially undo everything that they did and they accomplished with the 5-9 hack, which, by the way, we're not done because I want to talk about the hack itself briefly. Yeah, so she's talking with Mobley and she's like, if that what I've come up with is right, like we could undo everything. And he's like, yeah, I know. And they're having this conversation where she's trying to talk Mobley into doing it. Mobley's like, let's just not do anything anymore and let's just be normal people here in Arizona again. And again, like the post-credit scene in season 1, we start out following a car driving up somewhere, which I thought was cool. But who was driving the car, Nick? Who comes up and approaches our good friends Mobley and Trenton?
Yeah, and such a cool like swing pan, like full circle them, and then you face back out, and it's Leon.
Our boy Leon's back, baby.
Leon's back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dark Army making moves.
The operative coming, hanging out, checking in on Mobley and Trenton. And what's he asked them, by the way?
What do you say? I forgot.
Do you have the time?
Oh yeah, do you have the time?
Just saying.
Do you have the time? Dark Army
to listen to me. What? I'm just kidding.
So he must have got let off on a nonviolent offense then, because that's why Elliot got out for nonviolent offense.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting. Leon,
even though he murdered like 4 people in prison.
I mean,
that was good behavior because he sliced up the
neo-Nazis in there.
Yeah, the neo-Nazis.
Yeah, I mean, White Rose, she can pull some strings because stuff and things.
What's the thing is, was Leon already there and just conveniently was assigned to Elliot, or was that pre-planned? I think he was already there, and there was like, hey,
yeah, this idiot turned himself in. Can you make sure he doesn't like kill himself?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a scene, and it happened, and it was cool. I'll just run through the list of things from specific episodes. Episode 4 score was incredible. I loved how they really played into like that cheesy horror movie that The Mask was from, and how the music in that episode in particular was very theatrical sounding and like cheesy, but for all intents and purposes, like really worked with what was happening in the episode.
On
Uh,
on that note, how they use Elliot and Darlene use like this weird movie from like the 80s or whatever. That's like
mhm,
kind of like the premise, and like it's the mask, and like only people who've seen the movie would get like where this mask like came from and all that.
mhm.
That's really what like someone would do, right? They would use something from like their common past to like project into this like crime they're doing.
Yeah, right.
But then it becomes really apparent, like for someone like Dom who has seen the movie, like it makes it less mysterious, right? Because like that mask seems very ominous and anonymous and all that stuff, but it's like, oh no, that's exactly the mask from like this weird
Yeah,
80s movie.
yeah. Which, by the way, you can watch. It's a short, made available somewhere. I watched it during the airing of Mr. Robot, of course. The end of episode 5 in China, we talked about the shoot up was like real crazy. Episode 6 and 7, obviously, we talked about. Episode 8, the intro with Mobley and Trenton. I believe that was their introduction to each other at one of the Ron's coffee places, which I
Oh
thought was
yeah,
really
yeah,
cool. Where
yep,
they kind of
yep.
like meet each other and then meet Darlene and learn that they're meeting the same person. Where
Trenton hack
Trenton
Mobley right
hacks
away.
Mobley. I love it.
Just pwns him.
And the thing that I thought was really cool there too is as that scene is ending and we're fading out into like the title screen or whatever happens next, Darlene is like, okay, like, hey, this is gonna be weird, but like Elliot wanted me to read this, what he wrote. And she goes and reads the entire monologue from the first
From that
episode.
first episode, yeah, which was really
Like
cool.
word
Yeah.
for word, which is really
Yep.
cool. Episode 10. Okay, talked about that. The kidnapping, Tyrell's cab, got that. Okay, yeah, we talked about all the stuff I wrote down. Sweet.
Boom.
But before we head out, the hack, I wanted to just briefly touch on it. We don't have to go in depth, but I love this is something I alluded to in the first episode. Like a lot of times with activist type storylines, right, where somebody's trying to achieve this world changing goal for that demographic of audience, right? You only see the story from the success point, right? The
Right.
life changing point where it was beneficial. I love how they show both sides of the coin in this show. Like
Yep.
The E coin.
the 5, yeah, both sides of the e coin in this show.
That poor lady paid all her mortgage state all on time.
The
And
people
now
that they were trying to help, they just screwed
Screwed.
more. Like
Yep.
the 5-9 hack was devastating to
Right.
everyone.
And
for
hugely
the people that they were trying to
right.
eviscerate.
And
We'll throw another
hugely
one away.
beneficial for eCorp, really.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
the end of this, at the end of the season with the eCoin, that's going to make them worse than they were before. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's so cool because like you normally don't get both sides of that story, right? But and it's something that they continue to build on. So we'll see more of that in season 3 too. But yeah, that I just wanted to talk about that real quick because I thought it was cool that you start to see those effects. But anything you guys need to get off your chest before we wrap up and let the lovely people go to bed? No. All right. Well, I'm glad you're liking it, Chad. I'm glad that Dad is liking it. And Nick, I'm glad you're liking it on a second rewatch.
yeah, I'm glad I'm liking it too. It'd be really important. It's a different show on a second rewatch, honestly, which is fun too.
It really is.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe because we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers so we can give away this dang Nintendo Switch OLED that's just taking up space on Nick's desk. He needs to get it out of there. So do that. Join our Discord. Nick posted the poll for round 1 of the March Madness bracket, the March Madness tournament. We didn't do Answer the Boys, but there wasn't really anything. Nothing was answered. Just that Joe hasn't watched it because he doesn't have Prime. Big sad. And I love getting the mid-season updates from Civ, just letting us know how many episodes he has left to watch. It's great.
He finished it, by the way.
He did, yeah. I would love to know what you thought, Civ. Let us know. But the poll for March Madness tournament is up in Discord now. Tomorrow morning we will have the bracket itself that you can print out, fill out, and submit for the perfect bracket challenge. Till next time, have a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday. Bye.
Doses.
Hello, friend.
Poll results are coming in.
Already, huh?
Yeah.
Awesome.